Chapter 469. Three holy pools. This ancient and mysterious ancient city of martial arts had been controlled by the divine inscription palace for many years, but now half of it had been destroyed. The ancient city of martial arts was protected by all sorts of powerful and mysterious array formations. Only those in the martial Dao realm could enter. Now, so many martial Dao realm cultivators were unable to take down Qingyun. Near the city gate, the ground was uneven. Many people drilled out of the ground with great difficulty, their hearts filled with fear. Qingyun broke the Black Soul curse and mastered a divine ability. Even a martial artist at the 6th level of the martial Dao was afraid of this kind of power. The martial king in the sky wished he could break the ancient city's barrier and capture Qingyun. However, the ancient city's barrier was very strong. Not to mention martial kings like them. Even if someone stronger came, they would still be helpless. Divine Inscription Palace, hurry up and open the city gate. Judging from Qingyun's strength, any martial artist below the 6th level of the martial Dao would be in great danger if they met him. A bloodline martial king said. Those bloodline aristocrat families had sent many young bloodline warriors in to kill Qingyun. Now that they knew that Qingyun had broken through, they could only summon back the disciples with low cultivation levels. The martial king from a spirit desolate land also looked at the people from the divine inscription palace and said, Qingyun is a high-ranked spirit inscription master. The body-securing talisman he refined is enough to stop any martial Dao realm cultivator. Furthermore, he has the heavenly lion dragon suppression cauldron, the bloodline and totem of the heavenly lion. Once he stops him, even a 9th level martial body would be killed. Your divine inscription palace, hurry up and close the formation sealing the city. Let the people come out. If this goes on, it won't be his hunting Qingyun, but him hunting our outstanding martial Dao realm disciples. One could only enter the martial city and not leave. Everyone believed that the divine inscription palace was trying to seal the ancient city. But in fact, Qingyun was inside the array foundation, controlling the ancient city's array formation. Beads of sweat appeared on the forehead of the martial king of the divine inscription palace. He said, to be honest, the ancient city being sealed is not controlled by our divine inscription palace. It suddenly appeared, and we are also looking for the reason. When the martial Dao realm cultivators below heard this, they immediately burst into an uproar and let out waves of curses. They originally believed that entering the ancient city to pursue Qingyun would be fine even if they failed to succeed. But now they were trapped in here. They clearly remembered how Qingyun had torn the totem warrior to shreds and devoured him. He was like an evil demon. The martial king of Totem Pavilion said coldly, it looks like we have to work together to break through the ancient city's barrier. We are all Qingyun's enemies. If he is allowed to mature, none of us will be able to escape. The experts from the spirit desolate land did not think much of it. An old man sneered and said, what's there to be afraid of for a mere martial Dao realm cultivator? He had 2 Dao cores. If he wanted to cultivate to the spirit martial realm, it would take at least 100 years. Above the spirit martial realm was the Xian martial realm. It will take at least 1,000 years, and at most a few thousand years to become a martial king. We must obtain his heavenly lion bloodline. A bloodline martial king's eyes were filled with greed. As long as we can obtain a bowl of heavenly lion blood, we can create a heavenly lion bloodline martial artist. After reproducing, more heavenly lion bloodline will appear in the future. That's right. Our bloodline aristocrat families must join forces to capture Qingyun. This will only benefit us. Another bloodline martial king said excitedly, with this bloodline, it will be much easier to deal with dragons. The bloodline aristocrat families were extremely jealous of others seizing their inherited bloodline. But now, they want to take away Qingyun's heavenly lion bloodline. This made many people secretly despise them. Following that, these martial kings joined forces and constantly bombarded the transparent barrier. However, it was to no avail. The barrier had a strong absorption ability and could absorb the powerful energy they sent over. After Qin Yun brought Xie Wufeng deep underground, he ran into the distance through the cracks in the ground. Then, he used the penetrating divine art to return to the array base. After returning, he hurriedly placed the injured Xie Wufeng into the healing jade vat. As for Hong Mengshu, Kai Xiangjing was in charge of treating her. When Xiao Yuelan saw that Qin Yun was also injured, she helped to heal him. Old Wang and Old Zhang are both dead. When Qin Yun thought of this matter, he clenched his fists tightly and said furiously, "Those bloodline aristocrat families, just you wait." At this moment, Murong Darren and company also learned of what had happened. While they were furious, they were also very surprised that Qin Yun was able to save Hong Mengshu under such circumstances. When Xiao Yuelan was healing Qin Yun, she discovered that there were several tyrannical and turbid energies in his body. Those energies were not Qin Yun's. They had been devoured by him. The few energies in your body are very strong. I'll refine them with you, Xiao Yuelan said. I'll also completely refine that immortal pill. Qin Yun also hoped to break through quickly and obtain even stronger strength. Only then would he be able to kill all the martial artists outside. Xie Wufeng's origin sword had also suffered serious damage and was taken away by a bloodline martial artist. If he was unable to take it back, he could only cultivate it again. Kai Xiangjing came from the Nether Moon Palace of the Spirit Desolate. She was a martial artist of the Spirit Martial Realm, but she could use a secret technique to suppress her cultivation and enter this ancient city of martial arts. However, she could not release the power of her Spirit Martial Realm. Otherwise, she would be rejected by the power of the ancient city and be tortured to death. She also knew that she was the one with the highest cultivation here, and everyone needed her strength. Qin Yun, even if I make a move, I can only use the cultivation of the 9th level of the martial Tao, and my duty is to protect Yuelan. Kai Xiangjing said, if you are really in a hurry to obtain power, I have a suggestion. In the ancient city of martial arts, there are 3 holy lands for cultivation. They're the Tao Heart Pool, the Tao Origin Pool, and the Tao Body Pool. As for where it is, I'm not sure. In short, it's a place where one can advance by leaps and bounds in the martial Tao realm. Qin Yun was cultivating with Xiao Yuelan. He opened his eyes and said, let me try and see if I can sense the location through the Array Foundation. He hurriedly injected his mental energy into the Array Foundation to sense the great formation of the entire ancient city. If there really were 3 cultivation pools, then it would require a lot of energy to maintain. The Tao Heart Pool cultivates mental power, the Tao Origin Pool cultivates the Tao Core Martial Spirit, and the Tao Body Pool cultivates the physical body. Kai Xiangjing said, if you know where it is, and we can take it, it should help everyone break through quickly. Through the Array Foundation, Qin Yun quickly sensed that there was a place that was absorbing a lot of the Array's energy. He also discovered that he could teleport over from this place. I found it. I'll be there soon, Qin Yun said. I'll go with you. Xiao Yuelan was somewhat worried and hurriedly said. Kai Xiangjing was also very worried, because her main purpose was to protect Xiao Yuelan. Sister Jing, don't worry. Xiao Yuelan smiled at her. Hong Mengshu needed Kai Xiangjing's help to heal, and Xie Wufeng also needed to be taken care of. Kai Xiangjing had no choice but to agree. You must be careful. Kai Xiangjing warned Qin Yun and Xiao Yuelan very seriously. After Qin Yun cultivated together, he quickly recovered to his best state. Now that he thought back to the frenzied state he had fallen into, he felt a lingering fear. Qin Yun pulled Xiao Yuelan's hand and passed through the teleportation array inside the Array Foundation. They arrived at the waist of a mountain. This mountain is also filled with towering ancient trees. Qin Yun and Xiao Yuelan appeared in the tree hole where 2 giant trees merged together. The location of these teleportation arrays are all inside the trees, and they are also very secretive. At this moment, the sky is dark. After the sky turned dark, Qin Yun used shadow power and brought Xiao Yuelan to search the vicinity. Not long after, they found a cave. This cave is also very secretive and was blocked by a large rock. Qin Yun pulled Xiao Yuelon and used the mysterious penetration divine ability to penetrate the large rock and quietly entered the cave. This ancient city has been controlled by the divine inscription palace for so long. The cultivation place must have been controlled long ago. Only those teleportation arrays and array foundations have not been found by the divine inscription palace. Xiao Yuelon held Qin Yun's hand tightly and secretly sensed the mysterious shadow power. Suddenly, she struggled free from Qin Yun's hand. Qin Yun is alarmed and hurriedly looked at Xiao Yuelon, but he could not see anything. Xiao Yun. Xiao Yuelon transmitted her voice to Qin Yun. I can also use that power now and hide in the darkness. Yuelon, you and Yueme are somewhat similar. She can copy other people's martial spirits, and you can copy other people's special powers. Qin Yun transmitted his voice. He is very shocked in his heart. When you have time in the future, if you have any special powers, you can tell me, and let me copy them. Xiao Yuelon said with a chuckle. This is the power of Xiao Yuelon's mysterious third martial spirit. After that, they held hands again so that they could know where each other was. The cave passage is not big and can only allow 3 people to walk side by side. Qin Yun and Xiao Yuelon walked for about 1,000 meters before they saw a door on both sides of the passage. A few dozen meters in front of the passage is the end, and there is also a door there. The Tao Heart Pool, Tao Origin Pool, and Tao Body Pool should all be here, Xiao Yuelon said with a voice transmission. Let's go in and take a look. Qin Yun nodded and pulled Xiao Yuelon. He used the mysterious penetration divine ability to pass through the door on the left. If it was only a short distance penetration, it would not consume too much internal energy. Qin Yun could also use it with Xiao Yuelon without worry. After passing through the door, Qin Yun hurriedly took out a transparent soul pearl, making him and Xiao Yuelon transparent. Fortunately, his reaction was very fast because the inside is filled with bright golden light, and there are quite a few people here. This is a square stone room that is dozens of meters wide. In the middle, there is a circular pool that is 20 meters wide. There are more than 10 people soaking in the pool. And beside the pool, there's an old man guarding it. That old man's entire body is covered in demonic energy. He is actually a devil martial artist. The people in the pool are also devil cultivators. Qin Yun immediately thought of the deal between the Divine Inscription Palace and the Devil Dao sect. Yuelon attack. Qin Yun took out a few body securing talismans and was about to throw them out when he saw Xiao Yuelon fly over. The slender saber in her hand slashed towards the old man's neck. Chapter 470. The strongest martial Dao realm Qin Yun was taken aback as he hurriedly threw the body securing talisman at the golden pool. The devil warriors in the pool were also awakened. Just as they were about to jump out, they were frozen in place. Xiao Yuelon hurriedly rushed over. In a few breaths of time, she had chopped off the heads of the dozen or so warriors. Her attack speed was extremely fast, clean, and efficient, without the slightest bit of hesitation. She looked at the golden pool that was filled with blood and said softly, Xiao Yun, clean it up. Qin Yun hurriedly walked over and fished out the corpse. The pool was filled with golden water, and the blood quickly disappeared. Yuelon, I remember that you used a sword. I never thought that you would switch to using a saber now. Qin Yun said with a smile. I can only learn the 6-style Wind Slayer with a saber. Xiao Yuelon smiled. Teacher Yang has taught me many martial skills. Is she all right in the Moon Profound Valley? Qin Yun asked. Of course. Xiao Yuelon looked at the corpses and said, Let's hurry up and take down the other 2 pools. Qin Yun nodded. At this moment, he also realized that Xiao Yuelon had actually replicated the transparent power, allowing her to become transparent. You shouldn't be able to replicate your martial spirit, Qin Yun exclaimed. Her mirror is a purple-gold martial spirit. She can't replicate my black martial spirit. This little girl, when she found out that my martial spirit had such a miraculous power and she was unable to replicate it, she went crazy. Xiao Yuelon said with a voice transmission with a smile. Qin Yun brought her through the stone door on the opposite side. Just like before, the moment he entered, he quickly killed the people inside. The water in this stone pool was white. It was a Dao heart pool used to cultivate one's mental power. The golden pool from before was also a Dao body pool, used to temper one's Dao body. The people in the Dao heart pool were also devil cultivators. Qin Yun was certain that the person in the last Dao origin pool was definitely a devil cultivator. Those devil cultivators were all bloodline aristocrat clans of the magical desolate land. They must have given the divine inscription palace a lot of benefits in order to come here to cultivate. They didn't seem to know what was happening outside. In fact, there weren't many people who knew where these three pools were. Only the upper echelons of the divine inscription palace knew. However, they were all killed by Qin Yun's Dao cores. After Qin Yun and Xiao Yuelon entered the final Dao origin pool, just like before, they easily killed the devil cultivators inside. The water in the Dao Yuan pool was transparent and contained an extremely rich amount of Nine Suns spiritual energy. The martial spirits were all extracted by Qin Yun. Those who could enter the three pools to cultivate had pretty good martial spirits. There were quite a few purple gold martial spirits. Let's go back and tell Sister Jing, then come here to cultivate together, Xiao Yuelon said. Qin Yun nodded and returned to the array base with Xiao Yuelon. After he returned, he used the array foundation to open the barrier and seal the pool. This way no one could enter. As for him and Xiao Yuelon, they could use the penetration divine ability to pass through the barrier and enter. Xiao Yuelon used the Sun and Moon Heart Sutra to cultivate together with Qin Yun, allowing her cultivation speed to increase by a lot. The two of them entered the Dao origin pool and cultivated together. Outside the city gates of the martial city, there were many martial Dao realm cultivators. They had all rushed over from the three desolate lands. Now that he knew that he wouldn't be able to come out after entering, he didn't enter immediately. As for many martial artists above the 6th level of the martial Dao realm, they were not afraid at all. The moment they arrived, they rushed in. Capturing Qin Yun would give them 1 billion purple coins. This made many martial Dao cultivators enter without even thinking about it. Totem Pavilion, Divine Inscription Palace, Bloodline Aristocrat Clan, Spirit Desolate Sect. These martial kings all tried their best to attack the barrier, but to no avail. In the end, they gave up. They could only send people in continuously. On one hand, they wanted to find the reason, and on the other hand, they wanted to capture Qin Yun. In their eyes, Qin Yun was much more precious than a dragon. In front of the gate of the martial city, many experts from Totem Pavilion suddenly arrived. Beside them, there was a very eye-catching black-clothed youth. On the forehead of this black-clothed youth, there was a circular black mark. The whites of his eyes were also patterns. In addition, he had a handsome and fair face and elegant long red and black hair, which made him even more attractive. When the young disciples of the Bloodline Aristocrat clan saw the youth from Totem Pavilion, they all discussed in surprise. He is Gao Shilong of Totem Pavilion, 7th level martial Dao, 25 years old. To be able to step into the 8th level of the martial Dao at this age is already very heaven-defying. I heard that his totem is a natural totem. It's right between his eyebrows and his eyes. No one knows exactly what kind of totem it is. Is Totem Pavilion going to send him in? Not only Totem Pavilion, many Bloodline Aristocrat clans have sent their outstanding martial Dao realm disciples out of seclusion and rushed here. If the family allows it, I want to go in now. I am at the 8th level of the martial Dao realm, and Qin Yun is only at the 3rd level of the martial Dao realm. How can he be my match? If we capture Qin Yun, we can obtain his bloodline and totem. The Heavenly Lion bloodline and the Heavenly Lion totem, the fusion of the totem and the corresponding bloodline, that kind of power is extremely terrifying. Who wouldn't want to obtain it? Gao Shilong stood at the entrance of the martial city and saw the mess inside. He said coldly, "Are those martial artists at the 9th level of the martial Dao all trash? They are actually unable to take down someone at the 3rd level of the martial Dao." His words were filled with contempt. "Shilong, on the way here, we told you about Qin Yun's situation. Don't underestimate your enemy. A middle-aged man from Totem Pavilion warned. He has talismans and Tao artifacts, so do I. There's nothing to be afraid of. Maybe we have to be wary of his divine abilities. Gao Shilong said, even if he uses a spirit realm Tao core to blast me, I can still deal with it. When the other martial Tao realm cultivators heard this, they could not believe it. They were very clear about the terror of the explosion of a Tao core. Even a martial artist of the spirit realm would feel a lot of pressure when facing the explosion of a spirit realm Tao core. When an old man from Totem Pavilion saw how confident Gao Shilong was, he felt a lot more at ease. He said with a smile, Shilong, you have 2 totems and 2 martial spirits. The only thing you lack is an inherited bloodline. If you can take down Qin Yun, you will be able to obtain one of the strongest inherited bloodlines. The corner of Gao Shilong's mouth curled up slightly. He glanced at the bloodline warriors and said with a sneer, only one of the strongest bloodline inheritances is worthy of me, Gao Shilong. If it's those trash bloodlines, giving them to me would only be a waste. This caused the bloodline warriors to be infuriated. What Gao Shilong meant was that if he wanted to obtain the bloodline inheritance, he could ask for it from the bloodline aristocrat families at any time. It was only because they were too weak that he couldn't be bothered to ask for it. Shilong, I'll leave the matter of finding Qin Yun and controlling the ancient city to you. An old martial king from Totem Pavilion patted Gao Shilong's shoulder. You are the strongest martial Tao realm cultivator in the 3 desolate lands. There is no one like you. You will not disappoint us. Gao Shilong smiled proudly and walked through the city gate. A middle-aged bloodline warrior said disdainfully, he's only at the 7th level of the martial Tao, and he's already the strongest martial Tao realm. There are also many martial artists at the 9th level of the martial Tao who have good aptitude, but they do not dare to claim to be the strongest in the martial Tao realm. When Gao Shilong heard this, he looked at the middle-aged man outside the city gate and said coldly, if there is the strongest 9th level martial Tao, tell me. I will kill him at all costs. After he finished speaking, he swept past the ruins to search for Qin Yun. The old man from Totem Pavilion said with a smile, the world dragon has twin totems and twin martial spirits. His martial spirit and totem are the type that are more compatible. Even if he were to face a 9th level martial Tao cultivator, he would still be able to defeat him. The power of a totem lay in the totem martial arts and the power of the totem. If it was used well, it would be much stronger than the bloodline power of a bloodline warrior. Most bloodline warriors did not awaken their bloodline naturally. They were all awakened in a very bloody and cruel way. This would also greatly reduce the power of the bloodline, and the bloodline power that was passed down would also become weaker and weaker. The Inscription Palace and Totem Pavilion were very clear about these matters. Only outsiders did not know about them. An old man from Totem Pavilion looked at the bloodline martial kings and said, aren't you going to send some powerful bloodline warriors over? With just those postnatal bloodline warriors, you won't be able to obtain the Heavenly Lion's bloodline, huh? A middle-aged totem warrior said, with a smile, innate bloodline warriors are people's most precious treasures. They are used to inherit the orthodox bloodline, especially those in the martial Tao realm. They're the most precious. If they die here, it will cause their orthodox bloodline to be severed. The bloodline aristocrat families were infuriated, but they didn't say a word. Inscription Palace, what's going on with you? Don't you want to send more people in? Are you afraid that the people who enter will die inside? The old man from Totem Pavilion mocked the Inscription Palace. It's on its way. You guys should be more concerned about your Gao Shilong. If you were to die inside, that would be a pity. After all, there aren't many warriors who have awakened their totems in your Totem Pavilion. The martial king of the Inscription Palace sneered. Inscription Palace, I have to say that you are all a bunch of idiots. Originally, if you could maintain a good relationship with Qin Yun, you might be able to obtain his inscriptions, bloodline, and totems. But all of you are short-sighted and have given up on this treasure. The old man from Totem Pavilion sneered loudly. That's good too. Otherwise, if all the benefits were obtained by your Inscription Palace, we would be very jealous. The hearts of the people from the inscription palace were bleeding as well. Originally, Qin Yun was extremely dependent on their inscription palace. However, the upper echelons of the inscription palace suddenly decided to give up on Qin Yun. Later on, they even clashed with Qin Yun, resulting in such a situation. More and more martial Dao realm cultivators entered the martial city. At that moment, Qin Yun was like a treasure that everyone wanted to catch. Qin Yun hid himself extremely well. He was cultivating with Xiao Yuelon in the Dao origin pool. This place is truly a holy land for the martial Dao realm. It can allow us to steadily increase our cultivation. Qin Yun exclaimed as he felt his strength constantly increase. Chapter 471. Life marks transforming into threads. Qin Yun did not know how long these 3 pawns could last. He felt that it would be quite good if he could use the pawns to break through to the 6th stage. Xiao Yuelon was very happy to be able to cultivate together with Qin Yun. Qin Yun could feel her emotions as he pressed his palm against hers. Yuelon, is it because Kai Xiangjing is protecting you because they know your talent? Qin Yun asked softly. If they return to the spirit desolate land, they will take me with them. Xiao Yuelon sighed and said, I'm still considering whether or not to go. I can't bear to part with you. Qin Yun smiled. What are you still considering? It's rare to encounter such an opportunity. Of course I have to go. Xiao Yuelon's beautiful face was immediately filled with melancholy. She lowered her head slightly and did not say a word. The 2 of them were soaking in the water. Their palms were pressed together. It was extremely quiet, and they could hear the slow sound of water flowing. Yuelon, why don't you call me little husband? Qin Yun broke the silence and asked with a smile. We haven't become real husband and wife yet. You can't just casually call me that. Xiao Yuelon blushed and snorted lightly. Don't ask anymore. Quickly cultivate seriously. Qin Yun quickly entered a serious state of cultivation as he closed his eyes. When Xiao Yuelon and Qin Yun were cultivating together, she could sense that he was circulating the 9 Extinction Heart Sutra and cultivating the 9 Extinction Inner Force. This powerful 9 Extinction Inner Force was also copied by Xiao Yuelon through her mysterious martial spirit. The mysteries of the martial ancient city were very surprising, especially these 3 pawns. They were cultivation holy lands that could help the martial Dao realm advance by leaps and bounds. From time to time, Qin Yun and Xiao Yuelon would change a pool to cultivate. This way, they would be able to cultivate evenly in all aspects. One had to use powerful primordial Dao energy to form the 5th life mark. Condensing primordial Dao energy required a lot of internal energy. Now, they were cultivating together in the pool. They could constantly replenish their internal energy and continuously release primordial Dao energy to condense the 5th life mark. Although they had 3 Dao cores, their martial spirits were all black. In addition to the fusion of the 3 Dao cores, primordial Dao energy, they could condense life marks even faster. Especially now, Qin Yun and Xiao Yuelon are cultivating together. That is the fusion of 6 Dao cores. The primordial Dao power formed is extremely powerful. Furthermore, it is pure and vigorous, nourishing the Dao cores within their bodies. Not long after, Qin Yun suddenly opened his eyes. He was pleasantly surprised because the 5th life mark on his Dao core was slowly appearing. If this continued, he would be able to break through soon. Yuelon, we broke through so quickly. Will there be any problems? Qin Yun is suddenly worried. Don't worry. This is the effect of our joint cultivation. Furthermore, the energy in the 3 pools is very abundant, and we can absorb most of the energy in the pool. This is normal. Xiao Yuelon smiled. Cultivate in peace. Through the 9 Sun Divine Spirit, Qin Yun can indeed absorb the 9 types of sun energy. It is just like eating pills. I want to become stronger and punish a demonic sect like Totem Pavilion. Although Qin Yun had destroyed most of the martial Dao realm cultivators in Totem Pavilion, Totem Pavilion still stood tall in the martial desolate and magical desolate lands. He had the heavenly lion totem, so he had to eradicate Totem Pavilion before he could be at ease. After Gao Shilong entered the ancient city of martial arts, he held a black trident in his hand as he searched for traces of Qin Yun. The ancient city of martial arts was still very large, and there were many mountains and forests. It was not easy to find a person in them. Many people were also searching for Qin Yun. They had originally thought that as long as they did not meet Qin Yun, there would be no battle. But now, when they met Gao Shilong, they would be mercilessly attacked by him. Gao Shilong, what are you doing? Does your Totem Pavilion want to become enemies with our bloodline aristocrat family? A bloodline martial artist said angrily. You should feel honored that I killed you. Because I feel that you have the strength to defeat Qin Yun, I want to kill you. The long trident in Gao Shilong's hand stabbed out crazily. The bloodline martial artist could not withstand a few blows, and his body was pierced with several bloody holes. A small team of bloodline martial artists were all at the 8th or 9th level of the martial Dao. They were actually unable to deal with Gao Shilong, who was at the 7th level of the martial Dao. Very quickly, Gao Shilong killed all the bloodline martial artists in this team and left with a maniacal laugh. Not only were bloodline martial artists killed, as long as it was a team with decent strength, they would be attacked by Gao Shilong. This caused many teams to complain incessantly. When they met Gao Shilong, they could only hide far away. Many people squeezed to the city gate and complained to the martial king outside. Totem Pavilion, since your Gao Shilong is so brutal, then don't blame us for being impolite. A bloodline martial king said angrily with a trembling voice. At this moment, 7 young-looking bloodline martial artists also entered the city. The old man from Totem Pavilion sneered. You are willing to send out a Xiantian bloodline martial artist? Then it's best if you don't meet Shilong. Shilong won't attack others for no reason. It's most likely you who provoked him. Aren't you just jealous of his talent? The seniors of the bloodline aristocrat family were infuriated by Totem Pavilion. The people of the Inscription Palace and the Spirit Desolate were also filled with resentment towards Totem Pavilion. Now was the time for them to unite, but there was a conflict between them. As long as the head hall master of our Inscription Palace comes out of seclusion, he will immediately rush over. The words of an old man caused the expressions of the people from Totem Pavilion to change. The head hall master of the Inscription Palace was definitely not only at the Martial King realm. It was extremely likely that he was an existence that surpassed the Martial King realm. The bloodline martial artists in the city also gathered together and formed a large team. They entered the forest together to search for traces of Qin Yun. Their current opponent was not only Qin Yun, but also Totem Pavilion's Gao Shilong. They also admitted that Gao Shilong was very strong. Although he was at the 7th level of the martial Dao, he possessed terrifying strength. After Qin Yun and Xiao Yuelon cultivated together for 2 days, the Dao cores in their bodies suddenly trembled. They had successfully formed the 5th life mark on 3 of their Dao cores. In the past, when he broke through, there would be quite a bit of commotion. At this moment, because they were cultivating together and because of Qin Yun's Nether Sun martial spirit, he was able to suppress the energy that erupted during his breakthrough and break through in peace. At the 5th level of the martial Dao, the Great Dao life mark can be formed into threads and have a very strong ability. Xiao Yuelon gently waved her hand and released 5 black threads. Upon closer inspection, one could see that there were many lines on the threads. These were the runes that converged into the Great Dao life mark. This is mental power? Qin Yun asked. My mental life mark and dragon life mark are fused together. Xiao Yuelon chuckled. The most obvious thing about condensing the 5th life mark was the increase in one's Dao power and the increase in the inner strength of the Dao core. The main effect of transforming life marks into threads was to wrap one's body and form a cocoon, allowing one's Dao body to ascend. During the process of ascending the Dao body, the Dao core and martial spirit would be strengthened and the 6th life mark would be formed. Qin Yun suddenly sensed that there was some movement outside. There seems to be someone. This aura seems to be a bloodline martial artist, Qin Yun said in a low voice. And there are quite a few of them. Xiao Yuelon frowned and held Qin Yun's hand tightly. Xiao Yuelon said, "It's night now. Let's go out and take a look." Qin Yun thought for a moment and nodded. "All right, we might be able to take back Boss Xie's origin sword." Qin Yun took out some body-securing talismans and gave them to Xiao Yuelon. He didn't have many body-securing talismans left. Although he had refined quite a few with Zi Qingqing's help, he had consumed a lot of them in the past few days. He brought Xiao Yuelon with him and used the penetration divine ability to pass through the cave's barrier and arrive outside. At night, the sky was covered with thick clouds, obscuring the beautiful stars and moon, causing the world to become even darker. Halfway up the mountain, many dots of light appeared. With a glance, Qin Yun knew that it was a bloodline martial artist. He was holding a glowing stone in his hand, searching for him. "Disperse them, and then we'll hide in the darkness to launch a sneak attack." Xiao Yuelon sent a voice transmission to Qin Yun. She had also experienced a very cruel cultivation before, so assassination was not a problem at all. Qin Yun summoned the Nether Realm Heavenly Lion and charged at the group of bloodline martial artists. The group of people immediately cried out in alarm and scattered in all directions. Qin Yun also realized that after he formed his 5th life mark, the Nether Realm Heavenly Lion he summoned had become stronger. This Nether Realm Heavenly Lion actually knew the Heavenly Lion totem martial arts. As soon as he went over, he used the Heavenly Lion's roar, causing the internal organs of those martial artists at the 5th or 6th level to tighten in pain. Following that, he used the Heavenly Lion Fighting Dragon Claw and crazily attacked those people. "Yulan, be careful," Qin Yun warned. And Xiao Yuelon had copied Qin Yun's shadow power and could also hide in the darkness. She and Qin Yun charged towards the group of people from 2 different directions. After Qin Yun went over, he sensed the bloodline martial artist who had dealt with Xie Wufeng. He hurriedly threw out the body, securing talisman, and froze the martial artist. Then he flew over and threw the person into the Heavenly Lion Dragon Suppression Cauldron. Nether Realm Heavenly Lion, Qin Yun is nearby. An old bloodline martial artist shouted in alarm. At this moment, a few body-securing talismans were thrown into the crowd, stopping more than 10 bloodline martial artists. At this moment, the Nether Realm Heavenly Lion, Qin Yun, and Xiao Yuelon also charged into the crowd and attacked crazily. Qin Yun and Xiao Yuelon had both used the 6-style Wind Slayer. Furthermore, they were released through the 9 Extinction Inner Force. The saber force produced was extremely domineering, causing the entire mountain to tremble. The originally calm and dreary night sky was shaken by black bolts of lightning that danced wildly in the air. The lightning was hidden in the darkness and could not be seen, but its power was incomparably terrifying. When the black lightning struck out, it would set off a wave of lightning energy that struck towards the bloodline martial artists. As long as a 9th-level martial artist was frozen by the body, securing talisman, for 2 moments, it meant that they would die without a doubt. 20 to 30 bloodline martial artists were an extremely powerful force in the martial Dao realm. However, when they faced 2 people and 1 beast, they were defeated. Even the 7 innate bloodline martial artists were unable to move after being frozen by the body, securing talisman. Then, they were slashed to death by Qin Yun and Xiao Yuelon. In just a moment, Qin Yun and Xiao Yuelon had killed the team of bloodline martial artists. Qin Yun had also extracted quite a number of martial spirits. Early in the morning, the 9 suns slowly rose, illuminating the earth. Outside the ancient city of martial arts, there were many martial kings walking back and forth, anxiously waiting for news from inside. Suddenly, many black dots flew towards the city gate and rushed outside. However, they were blocked by the barrier of the gate. More than 10 heads landed at the city gate's barrier, only a few meters away from the martial king outside. When the bloodline martial kings saw the heads of their aristocratic family's disciples, they immediately roared in anger. Chapter 472. War Dragon. There was only one city gate in the martial city. Many people were crowded at the city gate, waiting to leave the city. These people were all relatively weak. Now, they did not dare to capture Qingyun. They all wanted to leave as soon as possible. Now, when they saw more than 10 heads flying over, they were so scared that all their hair stood on end. Their hearts were filled with fear. Even a powerful bloodline martial artist had been beheaded by Qingyun, let alone them. In the distance, a black shadow appeared. Upon closer inspection, it was a black heavenly lion. Qingyun rode on the nether realm heavenly lion and looked at the group of people whose faces were filled with fear. He said with a sneer, "You've been looking for me for a long time, right?" When the crowd saw Qingyun approaching, they all retreated and leaned against the city wall. They looked at Qingyun in horror. "Qingyun, don't get carried away. You're only a third-level martial Dao cultivator. There's one of the strongest martial Dao cultivators here." An old man shouted, "Everyone, don't be afraid. If we join forces, we will definitely be able to take him down. That's right, we have a few martial Dao level 9 martial artists here. There's no need to be afraid of him." Many people shouted for unity. Qingyun laughed out loud and said, "I can send you all to the heavens with a single Dao core." Just as he finished speaking, the group of people fled in all directions and quickly dispersed. The hearts of these fleeing people were filled with extreme fear. Qingyun's words were enough to scare them into fleeing. It could be seen how afraid they were of the explosion of the Dao core. When the martial kings outside the city gate saw Qingyun appear, they hurriedly floated in the air. They looked down at Qingyun through the transparent and powerful barrier. These martial kings wished that they could capture Qingyun, especially those bloodline martial kings. They wished that they could swallow Qingyun alive. Not to mention the people from the bloodline aristocrat clan. Many people present wanted to eat Qingyun's flesh and blood when they thought of his powerful heavenly lion bloodline, so that they could obtain the powerful heavenly lion's inheritance. Qingyun, the strongest martial Dao realm cultivator in our totem pavilion, is already on his way. You'd better escape quickly. He has never lost." The old man from Totem Pavilion sneered proudly. Qingyun had heard someone mention how powerful Gao Shilong was. When a head appeared, some people thought that it was done by Gao Shilong. Xiao Yuelan did not show herself. Instead, she hid. She was also the one who asked Qingyun to deal with this group of people, and she would secretly take action. She hated this group of people who chased after her husband. She clenched her jade-like fists and stared at the martial artists at the 9th stage of the martial Dao. Qingyun had given the Xian royal cannon to her so that she could attack 9th-level martial Dao cultivators from afar. Qingyun and Xiao Yuelan knew each other's strength, so they were very confident that they could join hands to deal with a martial artist at the 9th-level martial Dao, so they were not afraid of this group of people. "You want Gao Shilong to capture me?" Qingyun said with a laugh. "Qingyun, you are in the martial Dao realm. I think you also want to defeat Shilong." The old man from Totem Pavilion laughed. The totems on his body are all innate totems. If you defeat him, you can also obtain those totems. Qingyun slowly said, "I don't like his trash totem. My heavenly lion totem is 10 times, 100 times stronger than those trash totems." The reason why Totem Pavilion provoked Qingyun was to stall for time. They wanted him to stay here and wait for Gao Shilong to arrive. Qingyun, Hong Mengshu was captured by Gao Shilong. The injuries on Hong Mengshu's body were caused by him. Don't you want revenge? The old man laughed sinisterly. Right now, he is not only looking for you, he is also looking for Hong Mengshu. Because time is of the essence, he also has the time to take Hong Mengshu. Qingyun slowly took a deep breath and clenched his fists. He said coldly, "Don't worry. I will wait here for Gao Shilong and let you personally see how he dies tragically in my hands." Shameless boasting. The old man laughed. Not long after, a violent and ice-cold gust of wind suddenly blew over. Everyone looked into the distance and saw a handsome man with long, flowing hair and an evil aura coming from his body. He was walking through the air. Gao Shilong had appeared. When everyone saw Gao Shilong arrive, they heaved a long sigh of relief. That was because once Qin Yun was taken care of, they would be safe. Qin Yun looked at Gao Shilong's glabella and eyes. That was where the twin totems were located. Gao Shilong looked at Qin Yun as well. His eyes glowed as though he had seen a delicious herb as he licked his lips. Your bloodline and totem belong to me. Qin Yun frowned and said with a sneer, My bloodline and totem are in my body. Why should they belong to you? Gao Shilong sneered coldly. First, you are not worthy of possessing the heavenly lion totem and bloodline. Second, I am stronger than you. Third, Totem Pavilion has the right to deprive you of your totem. The purpose of our Totem Pavilion is to not let a profound totem fall into the hands of a weakling like you. Qin Yun was secretly infuriated as he said expressionlessly, Ridiculous. Also, you want to hand Hong Mengshu over. I like to hit this woman. I like to see her expression when she is enduring pain. This kind of strong woman who doesn't cry out after being beaten is very hard to find. Gao Shilong's face revealed a sinister smile as his expression turned somewhat sinister. Qin Yun said angrily, Gao Shilong, I will make you repay the pain you caused Mengshu 10 times, 100 times over. The aura on his body was released, and the intense fury of the heavenly lion immediately blew in all directions like a gale. Ha ha, you are really arrogant. Gao Shilong laughed loudly as he emitted an evil aura that collided with Qin Yun's heavenly lion aura. Everyone held their breaths in surprise as they retreated. Gao Shilong's evil aura was too terrifying. It was as though it contained the resentment and anger of countless evil spirits. It carried a bitter smell of blood as it enveloped them. Just from the aura alone, Gao Shilong was able to suppress Qin Yun. Outside the barrier, everyone from Totem Pavilion nodded their heads in admiration. Gao Shilong's strength did not disappoint them. Qin Yun threw out a body, securing talisman, but he never expected Gao Shilong's reaction to be so fast. In a flash, he was a few hundred meters away. Qin Yun hurriedly controlled the body securing talisman and chased after Gao Shilong. Insignificant skill. Gao Shilong waved his palm from afar and sent out a black ball of air, destroying the body securing talisman. He was already prepared and would never give Qin Yun the chance to freeze. This fellow does have some ability. Qin Yun summoned the Netherrealm Heavenly Lion back and took out his black saber. In a flash, he slashed down with his saber and executed the Six-Style Wind Slayer's Thunderclap style. The moment the broadsword fell, black lightning shot out from the blade. With an explosive thunderclap, it slashed down at an extremely fast speed. Clang! After Qin Yun's broadsword fell, it was blocked by Gao Shilong's trident. The blade struck the trident and produced a violent collision, causing many of the fragments on the ground to jump up. Dying! Gao Shilong struck out with his palm. The thick black gas was like a struggling evil spirit. It transformed into a palm force that carried the wailing of an evil ghost as it charged at Qin Yun. Qin Yun felt his broadsword being sucked in by the trident. He was unable to retract it, forcing him to use the Extinction Dragon Palm. The pitch-black Extinction Dragon Palm force transformed into a roaring Heavenly Lion's head. The power of the Heavenly Lion totem and the Heavenly Lion bloodline was completely released. The might of the Heavenly Lion Extinction Dragon shocked everyone. The aura of slaying a dragon was terrifying. Boom! Boom! 2 loud explosions rang out. Waves of ink-like black gas surged in all directions, accompanied by a roaring gale, wreaking havoc on the ground. After Qin Yun and Gao Shilong's palms collided, they were also sent flying back 100 meters. Primordial Tao power, Primordial Tao body. This level of primordial force is not something that can only be achieved at the 4th level of the martial Tao. You've stepped into the 5th level of the martial Tao. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of Gao Shilong's mouth as he said in surprise, In the distance, the crowd immediately let out cries of horror. Qin Yun was not at the third level of the martial Dao, but the fifth level of the martial Dao. When the inscription palace gave up on Qin Yun, he was only at the second level of the martial Dao. But now, he had broken through so quickly and became a martial artist at the fifth level of the martial Dao. This kind of speed was something that even a martial artist with a single martial spirit would find difficult to achieve. As for Qin Yun, he had dual Dao cores and a black martial spirit. As long as you have perseverance, it's not difficult to break the Black Soul curse. Furthermore, you can advance by leaps and bounds, Qin Yun said coldly. The black gas released from his body was the aura of his black martial spirit. The black gas on Gao Shilong's body was an extremely evil, demonic energy. Qin Yun gripped his saber tightly as he looked at Gao Shilong coldly. The power of the heavenly lion bloodline in his heart suddenly surged. It constantly boiled and surged within his body, increasing his physical body strength. When he was young, he did not have enough strength to protect his spirit vein, causing it to be deprived. And now, someone wanted to deprive him of his immortal meridian and totem. He would never let them succeed. Qin Yun cherished his bloodline and totem very much because they were friends who had accompanied him as he grew up and brought him great power. Through his hard work, he had obtained the recognition of his bloodline and totem and obtained the power they gave him. Then, he would protect them. Let's fight side by side. At this moment, Qin Yun seemed to have a telepathic connection with the heavenly lion bloodline totem. He seemed to be able to hear the bloodline roaring within his body and the totem jumping in joy within his body. Gao Shilong smiled sinisterly and said, "Great. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to fight to my heart's content. Now, I will use my totem power to defeat you." Gao Shilong suddenly let out a sharp scream. This scream seemed to pierce through the heavens and earth, causing everyone's hearts to feel uncomfortable. He released his totem power. 2 black venomous snakes appeared in his eyes, and a small black bat spat out poisonous gas from between his eyebrows. Bat totem and viper totem. What he released are all totem spirits. Mo said. Qin Yun's totem power was also boiling as the heavenly lion's arm suddenly expanded. The black saber Dao artifact in his hand trembled slightly as it was struck by the waves of energy. Chapter 473. Sun-suppressing divine arrow. Qin Yun sensed Gao Shilong's arrival and immediately released an energy barrier to protect himself. The venom hit the air barrier, but was unable to touch Qin Yun's body. Indeed, a trash totem. Qin Yun suddenly turned around and hacked down at Gao Shilong. The moment the 6th-style Wind Slayer's Mountain Splitter was unleashed, the earth was torn apart by the violent saber force. The perfect power of the heavenly lion was fully unleashed by Qin Yun. The most frightening thing was that it carried a vibrating force. Gao Shilong was also shocked by the power of this strike. He hurriedly used his trident to block it. Boom! The broadsword struck the fork. The heavenly lion's roar was accompanied by a vibrating force that penetrated the ground, causing the surrounding debris to be shaken into powder. Gao Shilong's hand that was holding onto the trident was also cracked by the heavenly lion's vibrating power that was pouring in, causing black blood to flow out. At that moment, Qin Yun's aura was ferocious, and his killing intent was overbearing. He looked like a god of death. Those martial kings in the air saw Gao Shilong's arm split open and bleed. All of them were shocked. Qin Yun's strength is clearly enough to crush Gao Shilong. You dare to show off in front of me with 2 martial spirits and 2 totems? You truly overestimate yourself. Qin Yun's angry laughter seemed to be transmitted from the horizon, filled with shocking might. He fiercely slashed down with his saber again, striking out with the power of furious lightning. It was the 6th-style Wind Slayer's lightning strike. Gao Shilong was horrified and was just about to dodge, but he didn't expect that a mysterious force would suddenly appear and press down on his body, causing him to feel as if he was carrying a mountain on his back. making it difficult for him to move. Crack! The large saber fell, and the saber chi splashed out like a dragon or a tiger, knocking the trident down. Gao Shilong's arm was completely split open. Black flesh and blood flew out from the shock. When everyone saw Gao Shilong's trident fall to the ground, they knew that he had lost. Even Gao Shilong, who had dual martial spirits and dual totems, was no match for Qin Yun. The martial Dao realm cultivators watching from afar were even more terrified. Gao Shilong made them feel extremely afraid, but now Qin Yun could defeat Gao Shilong. Rumble! Qin Yun's extinction dragon palm struck Gao Shilong's chest. The palm energy, like that of an angry lion, penetrated Gao Shilong's heart and poured into his body, tearing apart his meridians, bones, and flesh. Ah! Gao Shilong suddenly let out a tragic scream, which made everyone's hair stand on end. Shilong, the old man from Totem Pavilion, madly attacked the barrier and roared angrily. Don't you have a snake martial spirit and a bat martial spirit? This is all done by the soul refiners of your Totem Pavilion, right? They are all trash martial spirits. Qin Yun laughed and walked over. Gao Shilong collapsed to the ground, bleeding from his 7 orifices. His entire body is twitching. His totem-filled eyes are looking at Qin Yun with incomparable resentment. Qin Yun struck Gao Shilong's abdomen with his palm and used the soul extraction art. You are extracting my martial spirit. Ah! Gao Shilong shouted in fear, then screamed in pain. Qin Yun said expressionlessly, Don't worry, after I finish extracting your martial spirit, you will still be alive. I've said it before, I'll return the pain Mengshu suffered 100-fold. The martial kings were dumbfounded. They all knew that Qin Yun was a high-ranked spirit inscription master. However, they never expected him to know how to refine souls and extract other people's martial spirits. This was a soul refiner that was rarer than an inscription master, and a soul refiner that understood the Tao of inscriptions was even rarer, especially the martial kings from the Spirit Desolate. Their pupils contracted as their faces were filled with shock and disbelief. Qin Yun pulled out Gao Shilong's martial spirit and said disdainfully, They are all trash martial spirits. A guy like you actually dares to clamor in front of me. As he spoke, he threw his martial spirit out for the nether realm heavenly lion to devour. The people from Totem Pavilion all looked as if they had lost their parents. That was the most outstanding martial Dao realm cultivator in their Totem Pavilion. He was born with 2 totems, and he had obtained 2 martial spirits that matched with the totems. But now, it had been destroyed by Qin Yun. Martial artists in the ancient city of martial arts, listen up. Whoever obtains Qin Yun's head, my Totem Pavilion is willing to use 10 billion purple coins to buy it. The voice of the old man from Totem Pavilion was filled with resentment as his roar shook the sky. Qin Yun took out a few poisonous needles and pierced them into Gao Shilong's body. Then he looked coldly at the group of martial Dao realm cultivators in the distance and said, All of you, quickly come over. In any case, you entered the city to kill me. Even if you don't do it now, I will find you one by one and kill you. Ah! Gao Shilong, whose martial spirit was extracted, rolled on the ground and screamed miserably. Black evil blood unceasingly flowed out from his body. Qin Yun did not sympathize with such torture at all. Gao Shilong's flesh and blood were all black, which showed how vicious his cultivation method was. He must have eaten the flesh and blood of many people. 10 billion purple crystal coins made the hearts of many warriors race. Even a mystic sect wouldn't have so many purple crystal coins in reserve. This was equivalent to the wealth of an entire king faction. Hurry up. Even if you don't kill him, he will kill you. If I kill Qin Yun, I'll be able to obtain 10 billion purple coins. I will not go back on my word. The old man from Totem Pavilion was so angry that his eyes were bloodshot. Kill Qin Yun. Take off his head and eat his flesh and blood. You will be able to obtain the Heavenly Lion's bloodline. A middle-aged man suddenly shouted as he charged at Qin Yun. More than 1,000 people flew over from all directions and surrounded Qin Yun. At that moment, a few black beads shot out from other places. They were cannonballs. Boom, boom, boom. Xiao Yuelon used the Xian royal cannon and fired more than 10 shots in a row. The cannonballs hit the teams in all directions evenly. After they exploded, a large expanse of flames appeared. Those were the flames of beast oil burning. After the concentrated, refined beast oil was ignited, the flames carried a strong pressure as they enveloped the martial artists. It was as if a large wave of scorching lava was crashing down. The surroundings immediately turned into a sea of fire as the martial artists let out miserable cries. The reason why Qin Yun was so calm was because he knew that Xiao Yuelon was here. That was why he was at ease. The martial artists at the 9th level of the martial Dao were basically all in the flames. Xiao Yuelon, who was dressed in black and wearing a mask, flew out with a long saber in her hand. She charged towards a group of fleeing people. The 6th-style Wind Slayer howled in anger as she frantically reaped the fleeing martial artists. Qin Yun's Nether Realm Heavenly Lion also roared as it charged forward. With a single swipe of the Heavenly Lion's fighting dragon claw, it killed a group of martial artists. In the ancient city of martial arts, the martial Dao realm martial artists were constantly wailing and screaming in pain. Only now did they realize that not only was it extremely difficult to obtain the bounty, they also had to pay the price of their lives. Legend had it that the ancient city of martial arts was a holy land for martial Dao realm cultivators. But now, it had become hell for martial Dao realm cultivators. When the martial kings outside the barrier saw this, they were incomparably frightened. They knew very well that if Qin Yun were to reach the martial king realm one day, their fates would be no different from those martial Dao realm cultivators below. Gao Shilong did not die. Instead, he was slowly being tortured by the pain of the poison needle. His handsome face had long since been distorted by the pain. When the people from Totem Pavilion saw this, they were infuriated as they constantly attacked the barrier. Not only the people from Totem Pavilion, even the bloodline aristocrat families and the martial kings of the Spirit Desolate were filled with regret. This was because none of the outstanding martial Dao realm disciples that they had sent and were left alive, especially those arena masters of the Spirit Desolate sect. They had been killed by Xiao Yuelon's saber just now. The corners of the martial king's eyes twitched as he looked at Qin Yun. They were people from the Spirit Desolate. They were high and mighty existences. No one had ever dared to provoke them. However, Qin Yun had killed all their disciples in front of them and extracted their martial spirits. Totem Pavilion, I'm not done with you yet. Back then, you almost annihilated my 9 extinction profound gate. Sooner or later, I will settle this debt with you. Qin Yun also floated in the air. Separated by a barrier, he was more than 10 meters away from the martial kings. His expression was cold and filled with killing intent. Don't be too happy too early, you bloodline aristocrat families. I know you want to eat my flesh and blood, so don't be surprised if one day the aristocratic families in your desolate domain are wiped out by me. Qin Yun's cold words caused the martial kings to feel fear from the bottom of their hearts. Qin Yun, don't think that we can't deal with you just because you're hiding inside. When the head palace master of our divine inscription palace comes, you'll have a good time. The old man from the divine inscription palace said coldly. Qin Yun immediately laughed out loud. When is he coming? Tell me a time, and I'll meet him then. It was this bastard who decided to give up on me back then, right? I originally respected and trusted the divine inscription palace and treated it as my home. However, for the sake of a small profit, you gave up on me and even targeted me. The losses of your divine inscription palace in the martial ancient city were all your own doing. The old man from the divine inscription palace was so angry that his entire body was trembling. The martial Dao realm of their divine inscription palace were all inscription masters. There was no lack of talented ones among them, but they had all died in the martial ancient city. Their losses were no less than the bloodline aristocrat families and Totem Pavilion. Qingyun, I am also very pained by today's situation. From afar, an old and powerful voice suddenly sounded. The majesty penetrated the barrier and intimidated Qingyun. Qingyun hurriedly took a few steps back. That powerful aura was the same as Wu Mingxiu's. A golden beam of light suddenly flashed over. A golden-robed elder with long white hair and beard appeared in front of Qingyun. I am the head palace master of the Divine Inscription Palace, Han Fenghu. The old man looked at Qingyun and said with a cold expression. Qingyun said with a sneer, I am the city lord of the martial ancient city, Qingyun. The martial kings all revealed looks of unwillingness. This mysterious martial ancient city had actually fallen into Qingyun's hands. City Lord Qin, the martial ancient city is a treasure bestowed by the immortal desolate land to the martial desolate land. I hope that you can manage it properly so that the martial Dao realm cultivators can benefit from it. Han Fenghu said expressionlessly. What a nice way to put it. Qingyun suddenly laughed out loud. In the 3 holy pools of the martial ancient city, there are actually bloodline devil warriors from the magical beast desolate land. I have to say, your Divine Inscription Palace really knows how to use the martial ancient city to seek benefits. How despicable. Han Fenghu immediately fell silent as his face twitched. Although he was very strong and could be considered the strongest group of people in the martial desolate land, he was still unable to break the barrier of the martial ancient city. Qingyun, you should be more concerned about the 9 extinction gate. The 9 sun-suppressing divine arrows of the 9 extinction gate have all flown away. The 9 extinction gate will forever lose the protection of the 9 extinction formation. Han Fenghu said slowly. Chapter 474. Decision of the Inscription Palace. When Han Fenghu saw Qingyun's expression change drastically, he said, I'm not lying to you. This matter is indeed true. As for the specific reason, our Inscription Palace is also investigating it. Hearing Han Fenghu's words, the people of Totem Pavilion all took out their communication jade talismans. Because this was an excellent opportunity to deal with the 9 extinction profound gate. Qingyun clenched his fists tightly. He did not know what to do. This matter was not something that a human could control. Totem Pavilion isn't the thing that attracts you the most in the 9 extinction profound gate, the sun-suppressing divine arrow. Now that the 9 divine arrows have inexplicably flown away, is the 9 extinction profound gate still worth dealing with? You guys have to think clearly. Wei Zhongxing's group isn't so easy to bully. Han Fenghu said again. The people from Totem Pavilion thought about it and felt that their losses this time were not small. If they want to deal with Wei Zhongxing again, there would definitely be a huge battle. At that time, they would definitely lose a lot of people. In the martial city, their Totem Pavilion had only lost a martial Dao realm cultivator. Not many of the experts in Totem Pavilion had died, so they still had enough strength to continue developing. If too many experts from Totem Pavilion died, then the powerful sects that were eyeing them covetously would definitely attack them and swallow them up. Han Fenghu looked into Qingyun's eyes and said sincerely, Qingyun, although many people from my Divine Inscription Palace died in your hands, there's a reason for this. After all, there is a huge misunderstanding. On one hand, it is also because of our poor management that the Divine Inscription Palace secretly colluded with the Devil sect. He paused for a moment, glanced at the Devil Dao bloodline aristocrat clans, and continued, Our Divine Inscription Palace does not really want to be enemies with you. Now, I, the Lord Palace Master, have personally come out to negotiate peace with you. The grudges between you and the Divine Inscription Palace have been written off. From now on, our Divine Inscription Palace will also welcome you to take the inscription assessment. Hearing Han Fenghu's words, the elders and leaders of the major sects and forces were all moved. They knew very well that the Divine Inscription Palace had suffered great losses in this conflict. But Han Fenghu, this Lord Hall Master, actually let it go just like that. Han Fenghu was the head palace master. His words carried weight. This left Qin Yun somewhat astonished. Everyone thought about it carefully and felt that the Divine Inscription Palace's choice was due to their helplessness. After all, the Divine Inscription Palace was everywhere. If they really fought to the death with Qin Yun, when Qin Yun became stronger in the future, he would definitely wipe out the Martial Desolate's Divine Inscription Palace. Qin Yun, do you accept my method? Han Fenghu asked. Qin Yun pointed at a martial king and a few elders of the Divine Inscription Palace and said, "Exterminate them, and I will accept." Everyone was in an uproar. They all felt that this was extremely funny. Han Fenghu was the head palace master of the Divine Inscription Palace. Furthermore, they were martial kings and a few Xian martial realm cultivators. They were all very strong inscription masters. The few elders that Qin Yun pointed at looked at Qin Yun with a mocking expression. All right, after Han Fenghu finished speaking, he took out a long sword and stabbed at the few elders of the Divine Inscription Palace thousands of times. In the blink of an eye, those old men were pierced into pieces, and their bodies were badly mutilated. Boom! Han Fenghu struck out with his palm, creating a large expanse of flames that burned the few elders to ashes. When Qin Yun saw this scene, his face was filled with shock. He also felt fear toward a person like Han Fenghu. Such a decisive person must be extremely terrifying. The others were shocked to the extreme. They all felt that Han Fenghu's brain was broken. Now, we have come to an agreement. From today onwards, the Divine Inscription Palace will no longer be enemies with you. Han Fenghu said coldly. The reason he did this was to protect the Divine Inscription Palace in the Martial Desolate. If the Divine Inscription Palace here were to be exterminated in the future, he would also have a great responsibility. He was also very sure that Qin Yun would definitely be able to do it. The people from Totem Pavilion, Bloodline Aristocrat Clan, and Spirit Desolate would definitely not ask for peace with Qin Yun. This was because they were not like the Divine Inscription Palace, whose businesses were spread all over the place. Qin Yun took a slight breath. All right, I hope that the people from your Divine Inscription Palace will not cause trouble for me in the future. Otherwise, we will still be mortal enemies. A middle-aged bloodline martial king shouted, Great Hall Master Han, where is the ancient city of martial arts? Don't you want to come back? This is a resource of our entire Martial Desolate, bestowed by the Immortal Desolate. How can it fall into Qin Yun's hands? With a glance, Qin Yun could tell that the martial Dao practitioners from the Bloodline Aristocrat clan often came here to cultivate in secret. The people from Totem Pavilion and the other sects also agreed, wanting the Divine Inscription Palace to take back the ancient city of martial arts. Han Fenghu said, If you have the ability, then take it back. In any case, our Divine Inscription Palace has given up. A martial king from a sect in the Spirit Desolate said with a sneer, Since you say so, then this ancient city of martial arts is ours. We will definitely take it back. Han Fenghu said, Feel free to send in a martial artist at the 9th level of the Martial Dao. My Divine Inscription Palace will no longer be involved in this matter. Your Divine Inscription Palace is truly a coward. We will definitely not let that little bastard Qin Yun off. The old man from Totem Pavilion said angrily, You old dog, keep your mouth clean. Qin Yun's expression turned cold as he said in a deep voice, little bastard, you little thing raised by a dog, I'll fuck your ancestors. The martial king from Totem Pavilion laughed loudly as he cursed in all sorts of vulgar language. A martial king, in order to vent the anger in his heart, had actually done such an ungraceful thing. Haha, I'm scolding you, what can you do to me? If you have the guts, come out and hit me. The martial king of Totem Pavilion laughed loudly and said, If you can't come out, you might be trapped in this ancient city for the rest of your life. Even if you come out, can you beat me? I am a martial king. I can pinch you to death with a single finger. Everyone watched as the martial king of Totem Pavilion scolded Qin Yun. Although they did not do so, they were secretly delighted. Qin Yun, Hong Mengshu, and Feng Honglan are both your women, right? It's best if I don't catch them. Otherwise, I'll have all the disciples of Totem Pavilion ruthlessly fuck these two bitches. Haha. When the martial king of Totem Pavilion saw Qin Yun's furious face, he was very happy and constantly provoked Qin Yun. Han Fenghu frowned slightly. He never expected that a martial king would act like a ruffian. He did not have the demeanor of an expert at all. Ayaya, you really want to use your Heavenly Lion's power to beat me up, don't you? Unfortunately, you can't come out. Haha, I heard that Feng Honglan was cured by you, right? I was the one who got that poison. The next time she's caught by us, she won't be so lucky. When the martial king saw Qin Yun's eyes turn black, he became even happier. Everyone could tell that Qin Yun was infuriated to the extreme. Do you still remember your soul refiner? Qin Yun suddenly said slowly. At the mention of this soul refiner, the face of the martial king of Totem Pavilion immediately darkened. That was their loss, and that necromancer was killed by Wei Zhongxin. Your non-extinction gate has killed our only soul refiner. We will definitely settle this debt with you. The martial king was immediately infuriated. This matter had always been kept a secret by Totem Pavilion. Now that everyone knew of it, they were extremely shocked. Soul refiners were extremely precious. The fact that Totem Pavilion had a soul refiner made many aristocratic families and sects envious. Fortunately, he had been killed. Otherwise, they would have been very jealous. I also have a share in killing that soul refiner. After Qin Yun finished speaking, he let out a loud roar. A long whip suddenly appeared in his hand. The whip was more than 20 meters long. When Qin Yun threw it out with great force, it actually pierced through the barrier. The long whip wrapped around the martial king of Totem Pavilion and was dragged into the barrier by Qin Yun. The group of martial kings were immediately alarmed as they flew thousands of meters away from Qin Yun. Even Han Fenghu flew far away with a lingering fear. They never expected that Qin Yun would be able to drag someone from the outside in through a powerful barrier. This kind of power was too strange. Qin Yun had used the penetration divine art to attach the power of the divine art to the whip, allowing it to pierce through and entangle the martial king of Totem Pavilion. Then, he transferred a large amount of the power of the penetration divine art into the martial king's body. Only then did he successfully drag him out. As a result, Qin Yun's losses were not small. He landed on the ground with a pale face. The martial king of Totem Pavilion was dragged into the ancient city of martial arts. He was also repelled by the formation inside and constantly cried out in pain. Old bastard, you scolded me so much just now. You have to pay me back. Qin Yun landed on the ground and panted heavily. He quickly absorbed the 9 suns' spiritual energy to recover his energy. The martial king struggled crazily on the ground as he screamed. The repulsive force of the ancient city of martial arts could cause a martial artist above the martial Dao realm to suffer unbearable pain. This was also the reason why many martial kings did not dare to forcefully enter the ancient city of martial arts. The group of people in the sky felt a lingering fear as they looked at the miserable state of the martial king. Although they did not know how Qin Yun had brought him in, just thinking about it made them feel terrified. If they had been dragged into the ancient city's barrier, they would have suffered the same fate. Qin Yun hurriedly went over and took out the martial king's Dao, core, and martial spirit. The martial spirit was a purplish gold fire blade martial spirit. Although the Dao core was not big, it was where the energy of a martial king was. The martial king, who was high up in the sky, looked at the Dao core in Qin Yun's hand with trepidation. If he were to detonate this Dao core, he would be able to kill them all. Many martial kings immediately spread out. They were worried that Qin Yun would be able to throw the Dao core out of the formation. Let's make our move now. Kill Qin Yun and take back the ancient city. A martial king of the Spirit Desolate looked at the other elders of the Spirit Desolate sect and said. They all nodded and landed outside. They took out many puppets from their storage treasures. Some of these puppets looked like humans, some were large iron men made of black steel, and some were even in the form of humans and beasts. Over 100 puppets walked with heavy footsteps, emitting bang 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 sounds. They walked through the gates of the ancient city with a mighty aura. They had long wanted to release the puppets into the city. When they saw that Qin Yun had suffered such heavy losses, they were overjoyed. Qin Yun took out the Martial King's Dao core and was about to throw it out when he heard Xiao Yuelan's voice transmission. Chapter 475. Nether Realm Berserk Dragon Xiao Yuelan continued to transmit her voice to Qin Yun. Sister Jing once said that each of these spirit-desolate martial kings have over 100 puppets in their hands. Right now, they are only releasing more than 10 of them. It is obvious that they are trying to lure you into throwing out the Dao core and then let more puppets in. Qin Yun thought about it and understood why the spirit-desolate martial kings let the puppets enter the city despite knowing that he had a martial king Dao core. He hurriedly summoned the Nether Realm Heavenly Lion to fight together with Xiao Yuelan. Yuelan, it's best to use mental power attacks to deal with the puppets, Qin Yun said. He had also refined puppets before, so he knew where their weaknesses were. Xiao Yuelan had a black mental power martial spirit, and her mental power was also very strong. Boom! Boom! The group of puppets stomped heavily as they charged at Qin Yun. Their speed was not very fast. It was obvious that they had deliberately slowed down to lure Qin Yun into using the Dao core. The martial kings from the Spirit Desolate all had faces full of confidence. They revealed a smile as they controlled the puppets. Roar! 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 The puppets let out beast-like roars as they charged at Qin Yun. Xiao Yuelan suddenly kicked the corpse of the martial king from Totem Pavilion towards the puppets that were charging at her. The puppets hurriedly brandished the weapons in their hands and madly hacked at the martial king, who was screaming in pain. The people from Totem Pavilion outside the barrier were infuriated. That was a martial king with a very high status in Totem Pavilion. He was actually being crazily hacked by a group of puppets. The martial kings controlling the puppets were also dumbfounded. They never expected that the martial king's body would suddenly fly over. All of you, quickly stop. The people from Totem Pavilion roared at the martial king of the Spirit Desolate. All of you should know very well that the martial king won't be able to live. We are only ending his painful life. An old man from the Spirit Desolate hurriedly said. The people from Totem Pavilion also understood that their martial king would not be able to survive. However, the ones who killed the Totem Pavilion martial king was not Qin Yun, but the puppets. After all, he was a martial king. His body was extremely powerful. He was hacked by several tall puppets for a while before dying. The people of Totem Pavilion all rushed towards the group of people from the Spirit Desolate land and started cursing. Their martial king had been hacked into a miserable state by the puppets. Those people from the Spirit Desolate were not afraid of Totem Pavilion at all. They had quite a few martial kings on their side. If they joined forces, they would not even be afraid of the bloodline aristocrat family. When they saw that Qin Yun did not throw out the Dao core, they became somewhat anxious. If Qin Yun did not throw out his martial king Dao core, they would not dare to put too many puppets inside. The group of menacing puppets suddenly stopped in their tracks as they charged at Qin Yun, as if they had been frozen in place. Xiao Yuelan had used Spirit Concentration Kill to attack the puppet. This stunned everyone because they did not see Qin Yun use the body-securing talisman. Qin Yun only sat on the ground and closed his eyes to rest. Everyone suddenly remembered that there was still a mysterious and powerful man in black. Previously, it was that group of black-clothed men who killed many martial artists. Xiao Yuelan appeared. She was still dressed in black and wore a mask. She held a slender and sharp saber in her hand as she charged into the crowd of puppets. She wildly brandished the saber in her hand and hacked the puppets into pieces. These puppets were all at the 9th level of the martial Dao, and the materials used to refine them were not bad either. However, they had been destroyed so straightforwardly. He must have used the body-securing talisman. I never thought that Qin Yun would have so many body-securing talismans. An old man from the spirit desolate scolded. We should have separated the puppets even more. That way, that black-clothed man will definitely not be able to handle it. All right, let's continue letting the puppets in. We must kill Qin Yun and his accomplices and take control of the ancient city of martial arts. The 3 pawns of the ancient city of martial arts can allow one to advance by leaps and bounds in the martial Dao realm. It is said that within 5 years, a martial artist can continuously break through several levels. The main mission of the people from the Spirit Desolate was to enter the ancient garden and investigate the matter of the immortal tomb. When they saw that the divine inscription palace had given up on the ancient city of martial arts, they reached a temporary agreement. Many sects joined forces to take down the ancient city. Following that, the martial kings from the Spirit Desolate released many puppets one after another. There were over 1,000 of them in total. Such a large number of puppets shocked both the Totem Pavilion and the Bloodline Aristocrat clan. One had to know that the strength of those steel puppets was equivalent to a martial artist at the 9th level of the martial Dao. If it was an ordinary martial artist at the 9th level of the martial Dao, they might not be able to defeat these puppets. Qin Yun opened his eyes and looked at the thousands of puppets entering the city. His expression turned solemn. Yuan, should we retreat? Qin Yun asked with a voice transmission. I can deal with it. This is a good opportunity to completely eliminate the puppets. If these puppets are scattered throughout the city, it will be difficult to find them in the future. Xiao Yuan was not afraid at all. After the puppets entered the city, they immediately dispersed. This was also to avoid the attacks of the body-securing talismans. Qin Yun also ordered the Nether Realm Heavenly Lion to attack the puppets. It was very difficult for the Nether Realm Heavenly Lion to die. If it was seriously injured, it would immediately return to the Nether Realm and recuperate for a period of time. Therefore, during the battle, he did not hold back at all and attacked with all his might. Behind Xiao Yuan, a wave of black gas suddenly spread out and condensed into a large vortex in the air. When Qin Yun saw the vortex, he jumped in fright. Xiao Yuan was actually summoning the evil beasts of the Nether Realm. Roar! A dragon's roar rang out, and a black dragon suddenly flew out from the black vortex in midair. This dragon was 100 meters long, and its entire body was pitch black. It overflowed with a black aura. Nether Realm Berserk Dragon? What's going on with that black-clothed man? He can actually summon such an evil dragon. This dragon's strength is not weaker than the Nether Realm Heavenly Lion. I wonder if those puppets can be dealt with. As soon as the Nether Realm Berserk Dragon appeared, it charged at the puppets. It spat out a black ball of energy from its mouth and swung its huge dragon tail crazily, sweeping across the group of puppets. Seeing this scene, everyone's hearts trembled. They never expected that Qin Yun would have such a terrifying martial artist by his side. Even if Gao Shilong defeated Qin Yun, he would probably be killed by the black-clothed man. Xiao Yuan's Berserk Dragon and Qin Yun's Heavenly Lion were extremely powerful. Furthermore, they were not afraid of death. In a berserk and savage state, they crazily attacked the puppets. Xiao Yuan did not participate in the battle because there were too many puppets. She was worried that some of them would take advantage of the chaos to attack Qin Yun. However, she still controlled a saber to fly over and slash at the puppets. This was the Imperial Spirit technique. Within the ancient city of martial arts, the roars of dragons and lions could be heard incessantly. Dust billowed, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled. The mountains shook and the earth quaked. The raging dragon and raging lion crazily killed the group of puppets as easily as slaughtering lambs. The group of martial kings from the Spirit Desolate had all thought that they would win, and their faces were filled with pride. But now they were roaring crazily. Their hearts were bleeding with grief and anger. Those puppets at the 9th level of the martial Dao realm were also very precious. Now they had basically all been exterminated. Qin Yun secretly guessed that these puppets were mainly used in ancient gardens. If he wanted to enter the ancient garden, he could not exceed the third level of the martial Dao realm. However, the puppets would not be restricted. If he brought a powerful puppet with him in his storage space, he would be able to enter the ancient garden with half the effort. Qin Yin suddenly thought of Jiang Dazhu. He was a puppet at the martial king realm. Xiao Yun, these puppets seemed to have a soul-sealing pearl on them. Xiao Yuan walked over and inspected the puppets that had been beaten into pieces. She picked up a soul-sealing pearl. Help me collect it. Qin Yin had also recovered a lot by now. He hurriedly walked over and picked up the soul-sealing pearl. This was 1,000 martial spirits, and it was also one of the more precious parts of a puppet's body. They are all gold rank, trash martial spirits. Qin Yin curled his lips and looked at the spirit desolate martial king outside the city gate's barrier. He asked, "Do you have any better puppets? It's best if they have a purple gold martial spirit. It makes us look like we're picking up trash." The group of people from the spirit desolate were infuriated. These 1,000 puppets were not their own. They were all resources of the sect. They had to return them after they finished using them. But now, they had been smashed into pieces, and they were even despised as trash. When they returned, they could only use their belongings to pay off their debts. Han Fenghu of the Divine Inscription Palace sighed and said, "The one who suffered the most losses shouldn't be our Divine Inscription Palace, right?" Those powers were also assessing who had suffered the most losses. No matter how they thought about it, Totem Pavilion had suffered the most because they had lost a martial king. At least the other powers didn't have any martial kings die. Qin Yun, you will die a horrible death. The martial king of the spirit desolate shouted angrily with red eyes. You have completely offended us. I will definitely cut you into 8 pieces. I will dig out your eyes, dig out your heart, and pull out your tendons. As Qin Yun listened to their curses, he yawned and picked up the soul-sealing pearl from the puppet's body. Han Fenghu said, "Our Divine Inscription Palace can withdraw now. The ancient city of martial arts has nothing to do with us anymore." Just as he was about to leave, a large white jade carriage slowly floated over from the sky. The door of the carriage opened, and 2 old women and a few middle-aged women walked out. They were all dressed in white robes. When they came out and saw the scene below, their faces were filled with shock. When Qin Yun saw old Madame Du, he did not recognize the others. "It's Grandma Du and the people from the Nethermoon Palace," Xiao Yuan said somewhat happily. Han Fenghu looked at old Lady Du and the others and asked, "Let me give you a word of advice. It's best if you don't think about taking advantage of the last bit, or you will suffer." Old Madame Du was naturally well aware of this matter. She understood Qin Yun quite well. "Qin Yun, I am Moon Profound Valley's sect master, old Madame Du. The person beside me is Grandma Ling from the Spirit Desolate Nethermoon Palace." Old Madame Du shouted at Qin Yun. Qin Yun listened attentively and did not say anything else. "We have a rough understanding of the situation here," Grandma Ling said. There were many wrinkles on her face, and she was shorter and thinner than old Lady Du. It was as if she could die at any moment. However, she was very strong and seemed to be much stronger than those martial kings. Qin Yun asked, "Grandma Ling, do you want me to give up the ancient city of martial arts?" Grandma Ling said, "I just want to tell you that some powerful sects are preparing to snatch the ancient city of martial arts. The martial Dao realm cultivators they send out are the most terrifying and powerful." "Grandma Ling, are you kidding me?" Qin Yun said with a frown. Chapter 476. Meeting at last. Han Fenghu's expression changed. He looked at Grandma Ling and asked in a deep voice, "Could it be that those guys are coming out?" The expressions of the people from the Bloodline Aristocrat clan and Totem Pavilion also changed drastically, revealing a trace of fear. Are they still in the martial desolate? A Bloodline martial king asked in fear. "Always. The sun-suppressing divine arrow has disappeared, and they are no longer restricted, so they have all come out." After Granny Ling finished speaking, she looked at Qin Yun. When Qin Yun heard these words, he also guessed that it was some powerful guy but he didn't dare to confirm it. Han Fenghu immediately took a deep breath and murmured, "Is the three wilds going to be unified?" The martial kings of the bloodline aristocrat clan, Totem Pavilion, and many other forces also shivered. Grandma Ling said, "Qin Yun, we are also very surprised that the sun-suppressing divine arrow suddenly flew out of the martial desolate. You might not know, but in the Nine Desolate, there are some extremely terrifying sections. They have existed since ancient times, and they are called the Nine Suns sects." When Qin Yun heard about the Nine Suns sect, he learned about it from Wu Mingxiu. In the most powerful divine wilderness, there are 9 powerful Nine Sun sects that control the 9 suns. There are 9 sun sects all over the 9 wastelands. They were powerful sects that had been established since ancient times. However, due to certain reasons, these sects suddenly disappeared and only existed in legends. Wu Mingxiu had also said that the reason why the 9 suns placed their martial spirits in the 9 desolate lands was to prevent them from being obtained by the 9 sun sects. Han Fenghu said the 9 suns sect has always existed in the spirit desolate. Our divine inscription palace has a total of 9 great elders in the spirit desolate. They seem to be from the 9 suns sect. They are in charge of the divine inscription palace, which is equivalent to the joint establishment of 9 suns sects. Grandma Ling nodded and said, "Every great wilderness has a 9 suns sect. Martial Desolate, Demon Desolate, and the current Magical Beast Desolate had 3 each, making a total of 9. 5 in the Spirit Desolate, and 4 in the Magical Desolate. There are 9 of them in total." The sun-suppressing divine arrow appeared in the martial desolate, suppressing the 9 sun sects of the 3 desolate lands. Now, the 9 sects have broken free. They have their own barren regions, but they're trapped in them and can't enter Arid Triad. At this time, they can all come out. Furthermore, the first thing they will do is to ask for the martial city. Qin Yun frowned and asked, "Grandma Ling, do you mean give up the martial city and I can take you and your friends away safely?" Granny Ling said, "No," Qin Yun said firmly. Xiao Yuelon had the same thoughts as Qin Yun. They could not let go of the martial city. Grandma Ling sighed and said, "Qin Yun, you have to think carefully. The 9 Suns sect is the birthplace of martial arts. They have mastered all kinds of martial Dao, inheritances, powerful bloodlines, totems, runes, divine abilities, Xian techniques. They have it all." Han Fenghu nodded and said, "In the spirit desolate, the 9 Suns sect is also very mysterious. However, their disciples are active in the spirit desolate, and they're all very powerful." "I am not afraid," Qin Yun said. "Let them come. I worked hard to take down this city. I will never give it up." Grandma Ling frowned and said, "How about this? I'll talk to them when the time comes and let you share the ancient city with them." "No, as long as I am alive, I will not give up an inch of the martial city," Qin Yun said resolutely. Grandma Ling and old Madame Du were extremely anxious. They knew that Xiao Yuelon and Kai Xiangjing were in the martial city and wanted them to leave as soon as possible. Old Madame Du said, "Qin Yun, I'll send a disciple in to discuss this matter with you in detail. How about it?" "All right," Qin Yun agreed. He knew that the disciple must have been sent to contact Xiao Yuelon. From old Madame Du's carriage, a masked woman wearing a white dress walked out. The woman's face was half covered by a veil, and her pair of clear and beautiful eyes flickered with a spiritual light. The woman's white dress and long hair fluttered in the wind, as if they had blended into a natural breeze. A spiritual aura was formed, giving her an indescribable sense of beauty. Qin Yun only needed to look at the woman's eyes to recognize that it was Yang Shiyu. That beautiful silhouette and that ethereal temperament were still so familiar. Ever since Yang Shiyu's martial spirit had been scattered, Qin Yun had never seen her again. Now that he could finally see her, Qin Yun could not help but feel excited. At the same time, a complicated emotion surged into his heart. Yang Shiyu slowly landed on the ground, and then gently flew into the city. When Han Fenghu saw Yang Shiyu enter the city, he suddenly said, "Old Madam Ling, I can't get out after entering the city. I don't know the exact reason either." "What? Why didn't you say so earlier?" Grandma Ling's expression changed as she immediately shouted. She grabbed Han Fenghu's collar in excitement. "Didn't you say that you understood the situation here? I thought you knew about this matter." Han Fenghu hurriedly said, "This, what should we do?" Old Madame Du said anxiously. She knew the relationship between Yang Shiyu and Qin Yun. When she saw Yang Shiyu enter the city, she felt as if she had hit a dog with a meat bun. "Miss, this is not a suitable place to talk in detail. Let's go somewhere else." Qin Yun smiled at Yang Shiyu. Yang Shiyu's beautiful eyes could not conceal the joy in them. A faint and beautiful smile also appeared on her beautiful face under the veil. Just like that, Grandma Ling and Old Madame Du anxiously looked at Yang Shiyu as they left with Qin Yun and the black-clothed man. Qin Yun brought Yang Shiyu into a forest. Yang Shiyu also took off her veil. Her snow-white face was peerlessly beautiful, and the corner of her mouth carried a beautiful smile. She pulled off Xiao Yulan's hood. "When you two are together, you will definitely be able to pierce through the sky." Xiao Yulan poked Qin Yun's waist and said with a chuckle, "Big Sister Yang, little Yun missed you a lot." "Teacher Yang, long time no see." Qin Yun scratched his head and smiled. Yang Shiyu pinched his handsome face angrily. Her eyes were filled with reproach as she said lightly, "Qin Yun, you should be more obedient when you come to the martial desolate land. Look at you now. You've offended so many powerful forces." Xiao Yulan's face was filled with killing intent as she said, "What are you afraid of? When we become stronger in the future, we'll just chop them off one by one. It's all because of those guys. They coveted the good things on my husband's body. They were the ones who attacked little Yun first, and after suffering a great loss, they refused to let it go. It's not easy for little Yun to travel alone. He suffered so much when he was young, and through his own hard work, he obtained everything he has today. However, that group of people relied on their powerful strength to deprive little Yun of what he had painstakingly obtained. How despicable! If I had great power, I would definitely chop them all up and feed them to the dogs." Yang Shiyu giggled. "Yulan, you're really protecting your little husband." "That's right. He's my great hero. He saved me when I was young." Xiao Yulan smiled sweetly and kissed Qin Yun's cheek. Yang Shiyu stretched out her jade-like hands and pinched Qin Yun and Xiao Yulan's faces. "You two little fellows are truly a match made in heaven. But you guys still have to be careful." "Got it." Xiao Yulan smiled. Forget it. You guys definitely won't be able to listen." Yang Shiyu sighed bitterly and said, "What's going on with this ancient city of martial arts that can't leave? Don't tell me this is your doing?" Xiao Yulan said, "Big Sister Yang, little Yun can control many of the formations here through the Array Foundation. It can be said that this ancient city belongs to little Yun. However, that damn Nine Sun sect is about to come and snatch it away. At that time, there will be another bitter battle." Yang Shiyu was somewhat surprised as she looked at Qin Yun. "Is this true?" Qin Yun nodded. "It's true. I've found the ancient city's Array Foundation and can control the great formation inside. Right now, the most difficult thing is to defend this ancient city." Xiao Yulan said excitedly, "Big Sister Yang, this is the country that little Yun and I have painstakingly fought for. We can't hand it over to others. Big Brother Xie and the others were also injured because of this. Also, there are 3 pools here. If you soak in them, you will be able to advance by leaps and bounds. Little Yun and I both cultivate multiple Dao cores. In just a few days, we have already stepped from the 3rd level of the martial Dao to the 5th level of the martial Dao. Then what are your plans now?" Yang Shiyu asked with a frown. Qin Yun said, "Defend against the incoming enemies and then cultivate to the 9th level of the martial Dao. 3 pools are enough for many people to cultivate together. Boss Xie is very strong. If he was at the 6th or 7th level of the martial Dao, with his sword cultivation, he might even be able to kill someone at the spirit realm." Xiao Yuelon held Yang Shiyu's arm and said with a charming smile, "Big Sister Yang, you should stay behind and cultivate with us. All right, think of a way to call you Mei, Ziyi, and Sister Fei Ling over. We, the 7 beauties of the moon, will step into the 9th level of the martial Dao together." Big Sister Yang, what's the situation with our 9 extinction gate? When Qin Yun thought of this matter, his heart became extremely heavy. Yang Shiyu patted Qin Yun on the shoulder and said with a smile, "When something happened to the 9 extinction gate, Grandma Du said that a senior named Wu Mingxiu had gone over. She told me to tell you not to worry about this matter." When Qin Yun heard that, he revealed a look of pleasant surprise. "Senior Wu went over? That's great. Is this Senior Wu very strong?" Xiao Yuelon hurriedly asked. "Very strong. When we first entered the immortal graveyard, he was the one who killed all the martial kings inside. Killing those martial kings was like cutting grass." Qin Yun said with a smile. "Too cool. When will I have such strength?" Xiao Yuelon said in surprise and envy. Yang Shiryu said in a low voice, "Qin Yun, don't tell Grandma Du and the others that you can control the formation. Otherwise, they will let you open the formation and leave." She thought about it carefully and felt that this was a good opportunity for Qin Yun and company to advance by leaps and bounds. Actually, from the moment she entered the ancient city of martial arts, she knew that she would not be able to persuade Qin Yun. After all, she knew Qin Yun very well. Furthermore, Xiao Yuelon had the same stubborn temper as Qin Yun. She would not give in easily. "Big Sister Yang, think of a way to get you Mei in. I miss this swindling little girl to death," Xiao Yuelon said with a smile. She thought of her sister, and her face was filled with a warm smile. Yang Shiryu said, "Grandma Ling and Grandma Du will be waiting for me outside. When the time comes, the one who will contact me should be Sister Qingcheng. I'll try and see if I can get her to secretly help me." Yang Shiryu and Xiao Yuelon did not know that Qin Yun and Zi Qingcheng had a very good relationship. They only knew that they were relatively familiar with each other. Qin Yun said with a smile, "She will definitely help. Just tell her that I requested it. All right, get her to bring Old Hua over as well. I need some trustworthy people to join. We need to quickly grow stronger and then fight against the 9 Suns sect that is about to arrive." Chapter 477. Nether Moon. After Qin Yun returned to the array base, he saw that Xia Wufeng's condition was much better. Hong Yin, Morong Darren, and Kai Xiangjing were all very worried for Qin Yun and Xiao Yuelon. From time to time, they would feel vibrations coming from the array base. They knew that the battle outside was extremely intense. When Hong Mengshu saw Qin Yun and company return with a beautiful woman, she asked curiously, "This sister is so beautiful. Where did she come from?" Xiao Yuelon said with a smile, "This is Big Sister Yang, Qin Yun's teacher back then." Yang Shiryu politely smiled at Hong Mengshu and company as a form of greeting. Morong Darren and Xia Wufeng also knew Yang Shiryu. They were only curious as to why she had entered the ancient city. Qin Yun released a bloodline martial artist from the Dragon Suppression Cauldron. Then, he and Xiao Yuelon used some methods to retrieve Xia Wufeng's origin sword. Following that, Xiao Yuelon also recounted what had happened outside. Qin Yun helped Xia Wufeng repair his damaged origin sword. When Kai Xiangjing learned that Grandma Ling was outside, she wanted to go out as well. However, she knew that it was not suitable for her to go out in this situation. Murong Durin said with some excitement, "The martial Dao realm of the bloodline aristocrat clan, Totem Pavilion, Inscription Palace, and the Spirit Desolate sects were all killed by Brother Yun and Yuelon. Now, those 9 Suns sect martial Dao realm cultivators are about to enter the martial city. This is great. I, Murong Darren, finally have the chance to show them my highest standard. Murong Duck, why don't you take a look at your cultivation? What are you bragging about?" Hong Yin curled his lips. Murong Darren said, "If we enter that pool to cultivate, we will definitely be able to advance by leaps and bounds. As long as I have the cultivation of the 6th level of the martial Dao, I can beat them with one hand." Kai Xiangjing said with a frown. The disciples of the Nine Sun sect are all very strong. In the spirit desolate, there would be disciples of the Nine Suns sect appearing from time to time. They either possessed powerful divine abilities, or had very strong bloodline inheritances, or were born with totems. The martial arts and martial skills they use are also very rich and profound. Qin Yun said, "We are hiding the shadows now. Even if we're no match for them, we will be fine. This array base is completely under my control. Without my guidance, no one will be able to enter. This will ensure our safety." Xiao Yuelon nodded and said, "There are also the 3 most important cultivation sacred pools. They're also protected by formation barriers. If those fellows from the Nine Sun sect are really strong, we should be able to defeat them after staying inside for a while and cultivating to the 9th level of the martial Tao." Qin Yin said with smile, "Everyone, I will bring you to that cave." Yang Shiryu supported the somewhat weak Hong Mengshu. At the same time, she channeled the power of her moon martial spirit into Hong Mengshu's body. This would help her recover faster. Hong Mengshu is also secretly alarmed by Yang Shiryue's power. She had previously learned from Xiao Yueme that Qin Yun has a wife. Back then, he was curious about what kind of woman Qin Yun's wife was. Now, she has also seen Xiao Yuelon. She is indeed extraordinary. To Hong Mengshu, Qin Yun, Xiao Yueme, Xiao Yuelon, Yang Shiryue, and Xia Wufeng are all filled with mysteries. Everyone had their own strengths. This group of people had known each other for a long time, and their relationship was extremely good. Very quickly, Qin Yun and Xiao Yuelon brought Xia Wufeng and company into the cave. What shocked Qin Yun was that Xiao Yuelon had also grasped the penetration divine art. She could bring people through the barrier and share a lot of the pressure for him. If he were to bring so many people through the barrier into the cave, it would definitely consume some energy. Xiao Yuelon's martial spirit's duplication ability made Qin Yun even more alarmed. He never expected it to be able to duplicate divine abilities. Qin Yun suddenly felt that Xiao Yuelon might have also mastered the Heavenly Lion summoning technique. Xia Wufeng said, "I need to strengthen my body, so I'll enter the Tao body pool to cultivate. I also cultivate Tao body." Murong Darren said. Hong Yin nodded and followed Murong Darren into the Tao body pool. In the passageway, only Qin Yun and a few women were left. "I'm in the Tao heart pool. Mental power cultivation has always been my weakness." Kai Xiangjing smiled. "I'm at the spirit martial realm. It should be of some help to me." "Sister Jing, I'll go with you." Hong Mengshu hurriedly followed Kai Xiangjing. In the passageway, only Qin Yun, Xiao Yuelon, and Yang Shiryue were left. "Teacher Yang, you can enter the Tao origin pool. Xiao Yin has something to tell you." Xiao Yuelon opened the door to the Tao origin pool and said softly. Yang Shiryu frowned and walked into the Tao origin pool. "Xiao Yin, do you want me to leave?" Xiao Yuelon said with a smile. "Of course not." Qin Yin smiled as he pulled Xiao Yuelon in and closed the door. Yang Shiryu looked at the Tao origin pool and gently brushed the transparent water with her jade-like hands. She could also feel a special energy. "What do you want to say?" Yang Shiryu looked at the pool and said with a smile, "I can't wait to go down and give it a try." Qin Yun's expression suddenly turned extremely serious as he said, "Teacher Yang, I've been away from the Hua Ling Wu Academy for so long. Don't call me Teacher Yang. Call me Big Sister Yang." Yang Shiryu smiled gently. "Big Sister Yang, have you had any strange dreams recently when you're sleeping?" Qin Yun asked seriously. When Xiao Yuelon heard this question, she found it somewhat baffling. She did not know why Qin Yun asked such a question. When Yang Shiryu heard this, she frowned slightly as she paced back and forth beside the pool. This question was also asked by the old granny of the Guanghan Palace. "Yes, but I can't remember what my dreams were like. They were very vague, and they were a little frightening." After Yang Shiryu finished speaking, she took a few deep breaths. Qin Yun took out a black pearl and handed it to Yang Shiryu. "This is a black martial spirit," Xiao Yuelon said in surprise. "Xiao Yun, where did you come from?" "It's a long story. Qin Yun began to recount what had happened after he entered the ancient garden. Xiao Yuelon and Yang Shi were extremely surprised when they heard this. In the moon-profound valley, they had naturally heard of Qin Yun's deeds. Just from Qin Yun's matter alone, it was extremely soul-stirring. And what they were most curious about was what happened when Qin Yun entered the ancient garden. Why did he come out early? In my previous life? Is there really such a thing? Yang Shi looked at the pearl in her hand in disbelief. Big Sister Yang, you currently have the purple moon martial spirit. If you fuse with the black moon martial spirit, what will happen? Xiao Yuelon said with great curiosity. That's the martial spirit left behind by your mother. It will definitely be of great use to you. Yang Shi's emotions were complicated. After all, this matter was too sudden. Qin Yun glanced at Xiao Yuelon and suddenly felt that Xiao Yuelon definitely knew some secrets. It was just that she did not say it out loud. Xiao Yun, help me fuse. Yang Shi let out a long sigh. All right. Qin Yun did not mention the mysterious immortal king. Qin Yun took out a cushion and let Yang Shi sit down. Big Sister Yang, it's best if you take off your clothes. I want to fuse my martial spirit through your abdomen. Qin Yun said somewhat awkwardly. He had thought that Yang Shi would fuse with the pearl on her own. He never thought that he would have to make a move. Yang Shi hurriedly untied her belt and lifted up her shirt, revealing a snow-white and slender waist. Qin Yun placed his hand on it and gently rubbed it. He injected a surge of energy into it, opened the soul gate, and established the soul bridge. Xiao Yun, Big Sister Yang's skin is really good. How do you feel when you touch it? Xiao Yuelon asked with a charming smile. She also knew that Qin Yun had helped Xiao Xin fuse with her martial spirit, and the process was similar. It's the same as yours. Qin Yun laughed dryly as he cursed Xiao Yuelon. She was actually teasing him. In front of strangers, Xiao Yuelon was ice, cold, and her face was filled with killing intent. In front of acquaintances, she was still very mischievous. She was similar to Xiao Yuanmei, a mischievous girl. Right now, she was touching Yang Shi's beautiful face. She said that she wasn't as beautiful as Yang Shi, and that she would be beautiful if she touched it more. When Xiao Yuelon entered the Blue Spirit Star Palace's Eastern Palace, she had a very good relationship with Yang Shi. After Qin Yun established the Soul Bridge, he said, Big Sister Yang, I'm about to begin. Relax. Xiao Yuelon's face immediately turned solemn as she watched from the side. Qin Yun used the penetrating divine art to bring the pearl into Yang Shi's dantian. Then, he entered the Soul Gate, passed through the Soul Bridge, and finally arrived at the Tao Core. Big Sister Yang, you are now at the second level of the martial Tao realm. If you fuse with the Black Moon martial spirit and step into the third level of the martial Tao, you will be able to cultivate a divine ability. Xiao Yuelon said, It's beginning to fuse. Qin Yun said with a deep voice. It hurts a little. Yang Shi said with a frown as a black aura seeped out from her body. Xiao Yuelon's expression changed as she hurriedly said, Xiao Yun, something's wrong. Yang Shi let out a painful cry as she covered her head with both hands and groaned in pain. Xiao Yuelon hurriedly hugged Yang Shi tightly and said anxiously, Big Sister Yang, hold on. Qin Yun could also sense a powerful energy surging out from within Yang Shi's Tao core. What shocked him the most was that life marks were constantly overflowing from the surface of the Tao core. Big Sister Yang, how are you now? Qin Yun hurriedly channeled the power of his Nether Sun martial spirit into it in an attempt to stabilize the violent energy. I can hold on. Xiao Yuelon could also sense the existence of Qin Yun's third martial spirit. Furthermore, it was an extremely terrifying Nether Sun martial spirit. Qin Yun carefully probed Xiao Yuelon's Black Moon martial spirit and discovered that there was a totem on the surface of the martial spirit. It was a moon totem. After Yang Shi cried out in pain for a moment, she quieted down. Her face was somewhat pale, and she fainted, lying in Xiao Yuelon's arms. It stabilized. Qin Yun wiped his sweat and heaved a long sigh. Furthermore, I've stepped into the third level of the martial Tao. I reckon that it will continue to increase. Qin Yun looked at Xiao Yuelon and asked, Yuelon, you also made a move just now, didn't you? Xiao Yuelon smiled gently. Qin Yin was even more curious about what Xiao Yuelon's third martial spirit was. It wasn't that he hadn't investigated it before, but he was unable to find out. Even Xiao Yuelon herself didn't know what martial spirit it was. He felt that there was one person who definitely knew the situation. It was Xie Qiru. When Yang Shiyu fell asleep, it was already afternoon outside. Strangely, in addition to the 9 blazing suns in the sky, there was also a thin black crescent moon. The crescent moon increased bit by bit, as if it was preparing to become round. Chapter 478. Previous life and present life in broad daylight. A black moon appeared in the sky. This was a rare phenomenon. Old Madame Du asked in a low voice, "Grandma Ling, what does this mean?" It means that someone with a nether moon martial spirit has been born. That is a very terrifying martial spirit. Grandma Ling's face was filled with fear as she said with some fear. Han Fenghu frowned and said, "Is there any relationship between the Nethermoon Palace and the Nethermoon? Cultivating a powerful Nethermoon martial spirit is the goal of our Nethermoon Palace." Grandma Ling said, "I wonder which person from the great desolate lands managed to cultivate the Nethermoon martial spirit." The martial kings outside the ancient city looked at the black full moon that was gradually forming in the sky and discussed this matter in surprise. These martial kings did not leave. Some were unwilling to give up the martial city, while others were waiting for the people from the 9 Sun sects to appear. They wanted to see how they would take down the martial city. There were also some sects that wanted to take advantage of the situation to get close to the 9 Sun sects to see if they could curry favor with them. Yang Shiyu was still asleep. Qin Yun and Xiao Yuelon accompanied her and did not know what was going on outside. The next morning, the nether moon had also disappeared. Yang Shiyu had been quietly lying in Xiao Yuelon's embrace, breathing evenly and sleeping very comfortably. Qin Yun looked at the totem he had obtained from Fairy Bing Xing. It was the 9th heaven Xian Sparrow totem. He felt that it would be extremely useful to him. Just as he was looking at it seriously, the stone door suddenly opened. Qin Yun also looked at the stone door. The person who had entered was actually Xiao Yuanmei. Xiao Yuanmei was wearing a bright red dress with a pair of long ponytails. There was a beautiful red cloth bag hanging from her body, and her pretty face was filled with a mischievous smile. "Brother, sister, I found you guys. Am I awesome?" Xiao Yuanmei said with a charming smile. "Sure." Xiao Yuelon hurriedly told her to be quiet. Qin Yun and Xiao Yuelon were truly astonished that Xiao Yuelon could actually run in. "How did you enter this barrier? Could it be that the barrier's energy has failed?" Qin Yun's face was filled with shock. "No, I used mysterious penetration, divine ability, to enter," Xiao Yuanmei said with charming smile. "Did you forget? I copied the penetration divine, art martial spirit." Qin Yun smacked his head as he recalled the matter. Xiao Yuanmei has the soul-chasing talisman on her. She can track his aura. That's why she can find this place. "How is my beautiful big sister Yang? Are you hurt?" When Xiao Yuanmei saw Yang Shuriwell lying in Xiao Yuelon's embrace with her eyes closed, she walked over and gently caressed her beautiful face. Qin Yun said, "Sister Yang is fine. She's just too tired and sleeping." "Yuanmei, what's the situation outside?" A large group of martial kings are setting up tents outside, waiting for that 9 Sun sect to come in. Xiao Yuanmei used her hair to tease her sister, then ran behind Qin Yun with a giggle. "Brother, I heard that Sister Dreaming Pig was captured, so I rushed over. You killed those bad guys. It's really satisfying." Xiao Yuanmei is indeed very concerned about Hong Mengshu. Where did she go? Her injuries are all healed. She's in the stone room next door. Qin Yun said. "All right, I will go scare her," Xiao Yuanmei said with charming smile, and then hopped away. "This damn girl, if I didn't have to take care of big sister Yang. See how I would take care of her." Xiao Yuelon snorted. Qin Yun shook his head and smiled. Yang Shiyu slept for 3 days and 3 nights before waking up. When she woke up, the whites of her eyes suddenly disappeared and were filled with black gas. That was the power of the black martial spirit. Although it looked somewhat frightening, it was actually a very powerful power. Big Sister Yang, how do you feel? Xiao Yuan looked at Yang Shiryu, who was sitting on the cushion, and asked softly. Yang Shiryu's expression was somewhat ice-cold. She closed her eyes and opened them again. The serious black gas had also disappeared, but her beautiful eyes were filled with an indescribable coldness. She stared at Qin Yun. The coldness in her eyes deepened, as though it was filled with killing intent. Xiao Yuan was extremely sensitive, and her reaction was very fast. She quickly took out a long saber and said coldly, "You are not Big Sister Yang? Who are you?" What Qin Yun was worried about had happened. He sighed inwardly. He was worried that Yang Shiryu would recover her previous memories and become another person. Yang Shiryu suddenly smiled softly. It was like spring when ice and snow melted, filled with warmth and gentleness. The killing intent disappeared. Her eyes were filled with gentleness as she said with a chuckle, "I wasn't used to the Nether Moon martial spirit just now. I made you guys worry. You scare me to death. Big Sister Yang, have you recovered your memories?" Xiao Yulan's consciousness was very sharp. She could tell from Yang Shiryu's eyes that she was different from before. Although it was still that Yang Shiryu, her temperament and feeling were completely different. This must be because she suddenly had the personality of her previous life, which was why she had become like this. Yang Shiryu nodded and then shook her head. "My memories are very fragmented and intermittent. In short, no matter what, I am your Big Sister Yang." "Then I'm relieved." Xiao Yuan put away her saber. "Big Sister Yang, you're at the 7th level of the martial Tao," Qin Yun said with some surprise. Yang Shiryu nodded with a chuckle. "Thank you, Xiao Yun. That little rabbit is still sleeping with me. I'll give her to you. Maybe it will help you recover your memories," Qin Yun said. "Let her stay with you for now. I can't afford to raise her for the time being." Yang Shiryu tidied up her hair and said, "I'm going to report to Grandma Ling and the others about the situation here." At this time, Xiao Yuanmei also ran over. When she saw Yang Shiryu, she immediately threw herself in her arms. "Big Sister Yang, mischievous little girl, you're here too." Yang Shiryu scratched her beautiful nose and said with a chuckle. Xiao Yuanmei said, "When I came, you were still sleeping. Oh, right before I came, a black moon appeared in the sky. It's a pity that you didn't see it. I'll go out first to report the situation here and let Sister Qingsheng contact someone to come in." Yang Shiryu said with a smile. "I'll go out too. I want to call Aunt here to cultivate." Xiao Yuanmei hurriedly said, "All right." Yang Shiryu smiled and nodded. Then, she pulled Xiao Yuanmei out of the stone room. Yang Shiryu could release a faint black gas and easily pass through the barrier. It seemed to be much easier than Qin Yun using the penetration divine ability. "Xiao Yun, did you notice? There's something wrong with the way Big Sister Yang looks at you." Xiao Yuan poked Qin Yun's waist and said softly, "Is there?" At the beginning, she was filled with hostility towards me. Later on, it's very normal, Qin Yun said with a frown because he did not notice anything amiss. Xiao Yuan said, "Although it's very difficult to discover, I can still see that when Big Sister Yang looks at you, there's a bit more complicated emotions. This is something that hasn't happened before. Let's not talk about this anymore. Let's go cultivate and quickly use the 3-Saint Lake to become stronger and fight the 9-Sun sect." Qin Yun pulled her and jumped into the pool. The two of them began cultivating together. Qin Yun had originally planned to refine a formation of the city gate, but with his strength, he was unable to refine a powerful formation. At that time, those martial artists who were attacking the city would definitely be able to use the power of their elders to break through the formation. That was why he decided that it would be more appropriate to use the limited time to cultivate and break through. Although the news of the 9-Sun sect coming out had spread, it wouldn't come that quickly. Yang Shiryu had the mysterious Nether Moon martial spirit, and some of her memories from her previous life seemed to have recovered. In addition, she was at the 7th level of the martial Tao, so she would definitely be very strong. This month, Yang Shiryu had asked Zi Qingsheng to contact others to come in. After a lot of effort, she could only contact Lanfeng Jin. She had lost contact with the others, or it would be difficult to find them for a while. For example, Shuezai and Meng Feiling. These girls who had a good relationship with Qin Yun had been hidden by the Nethermoon Palace. As for the Nine Extinction Gate, Yuan Yinying and Feng Honglan had become their disciples after being introduced to the Nethermoon Palace. The Nethermoon Palace seemed to have given the Nine Extinction Gate quite a bit of benefits. In the cave with the Three-Saint Lake, Qin Yun had also carved out many stone rooms for resting and a spacious stone room to be used as a hall. Qin Yun was in the spacious hall. Sitting opposite him was a dark-skinned beauty with her legs crossed. It was Lan Fengjin. Master, Yinying and Honglan originally didn't want to go to the Nethermoon Palace. However, the headmaster insisted that they go. The headmaster said that the current situation of the Nine Extinction Gate would delay their cultivation. Lan Fengjin sighed. On the way here, she had also understood the situation of the martial city. Yang Shiyu said, a disciple that the Nethermoon Palace has taken a fancy to and has given the Nine Extinction Gate many benefits. Their aptitude must be extraordinary. Your headmaster is indeed doing this for their sake. Qin Yun knew very well that Yuan Yinying and Feng Honglan had deep feelings for the Nine Extinction Gate. At this moment, the Nine Extinction Gate was in a predicament. Naturally, they had to stay behind to help, so they refused to leave. In the end, Wei Zhongjing must have tried his best to persuade them to leave. When Xiao Yuemei returned, she brought Xiao Xianqin with her. It was unknown how she found Xiao Xianqin. Xiao Xianqin wore a light blue dress and had a mature charm. Her fair and beautiful face had a friendly smile on it, looking elegant and dignified. The moment she arrived, Qin Yun felt a strong bloodline aura. However, he did not find it strange because the descendants of a Xiao family had the potential to inherit the dragon bloodline. Xiao Yuemei and Xiao Yuelan had both awakened their dragon bloodline, so Xiao Xianqin had naturally awakened as well. When they reached a certain level of cultivation, they would awaken their bloodline. After Xiao Xianqin arrived, she exchanged a few pleasantries with Qin Yun and company before saying, I've heard some news. A few sect from a Nine-Sun sect are on their way here. Furthermore, they have set a time to enter the ancient city of martial arts. In a month's time, that is, on the 10th day of June, Xiao Wufeng was cultivating in the sacred pool and had also stepped into the 5th level of the martial Tao. It's enough for us to prepare. In another month, I will definitely be able to step into the 7th level of the martial Tao. Dealing with the 9th level shouldn't be a problem. This battle will determine whether or not we can take down the martial city. Qin Yun stood up and said in a calm voice. Xiao Xianqin was only at the 3rd level of the martial Tao, so she was in a hurry to enter the sacred pool to cultivate. Chapter 479. Dragon Essence. After Qin Yun and Xiao Yuelan cultivated together for more than 10 days, their bodies were also wrapped by the overflowing black threads. They were at the 5th level of the martial Tao and could see the life mark threads emerging from their bodies. At this moment, they used these life mark spirit threads to tightly wrap their bodies. Qin Yun and Xiao Yuelan hugged each other as the life mark spirit threads wrapped the two of them into a black cocoon. As long as they broke out of the cocoon, it would be the time for their Tao body to succeed. At that time, they would successfully cultivate the Ascension Tao body and condense the 6th life mark, allowing their Tao power to carry a powerful Tao force. Of course, only those with high enough talent would be able to unleash the power of Tao force. Generally speaking, it had a very good effect when inscribing pills and refining souls. If one's perception was not high, their Tao force would be relatively weak and it would be difficult to manifest. The only benefit they obtained was the formidable power brought about by the 6th life mark. Xiao Yuemei and Xiao Xianqin were in the pool, looking at the floating black cocoon. They were very much looking forward to the time when they came out. When they break out of the cocoon, they will be at the 6th level of the martial Tao. Xiao Yuemei laughed tenderly. We are faster than them. They all have several Tao cores, and their cultivation is slower than ours. Xiao Xianqin said, Yueme, when the time comes for battle, you must follow me closely. In half a month, we should be able to step into the 7th level of the martial Tao. Maybe we won't even need to fight. Xiao Yueme laughed. Qin Yun and Xiao Yuelon used 2 days to break out of the cocoon. Both of them had successfully stepped into the 6th level of the martial Tao. They calculated the time and realized that there were only 13 days left until the 10th day of June. The disciples of the sects were about to attack. These 13 days were not enough for them to step into the 7th level of the martial Tao. In the past few days, Yang Shiyu had been wandering around outside to gather information. At the same time, she was also familiarizing herself with the Nether Moon martial spirit. You guys cultivate first. Yuelon and I will consolidate our cultivation. Qin Yin pulled Xiao Yuelon to a spacious stone room. Xiao Yuelon sighed. Xiao Yun, I'm afraid we won't be able to step into the 7th level of the martial Tao. At that time, it will definitely be very difficult to face the disciples of the Nine Suns sect. Yuelon, I have a dragon. Qin Yin took out the heavenly lion dragon suppression cauldron and said, On the way to the immortal graveyard, a large group of martial kings attacked a dragon. You should have heard of this matter. Xiao Yuelon said in surprise. I heard. Grandma Du told me that while they were fighting, the dragon ran away. Could it be in this cauldron? Qin Yin nodded with a smile. Do you know how to make use of this dragon? It's best if it can help us break through quickly. There is a dragon essence in a dragon's body. If we absorb it, we should be able to break through. Xiao Yuelon said somewhat excitedly. I'll call Big Sister Yang over and ask her. Qin Yin nodded. Yang Shiyu had also just returned from outside. She was wearing a white suit and had her hair tied up. She looked like she was ready to fight at any moment. After she entered the secret chamber and found out that Qin Yin had a dragon, she was also very surprised. Let me enter the cauldron first and kill that dragon. Only then can I extract the dragon essence. Yang Shiyu said, then you guys absorb the dragon essence and soak in the dragon blood at the same time. Stepping into the 7th level of the martial Tao requires extreme tempering of the immortal Tao body, squeezing out even more primordial Tao energy and condensing the heart of the great Tao. This is the most important thing. Qin Yin opened the lid and let Yang Shiyu enter. He also warned her to be careful. Little Yun, when you stepped into the 6th level of the martial Tao, you should have comprehended the second divine ability, right? Xiao Yuelon asked with a smile. What divine abilities are they? Qin Yun said, I didn't comprehend the second divine ability, but my divine ability has been strengthened. The heavenly lion summoning technique allows me to summon 2 nether realm heavenly lions. As for the vibration martial spirit, it can cause a vibration storm to surge out from the ground during an earthquake. I'm not sure about the specifics. As for the nether sun martial spirit, it's still the same. His nether sun martial spirit's divine ability had never appeared. It was just that with his current strength, he was unable to release it. He suspected that it was that kind of terrifying, devouring power. My situation is similar to yours. The power of my divine ability has increased. Xiao Yuelon sighed and said, the black martial spirit will undergo 9 transformations. When we step into the 3rd level of the martial Tao, it is the first transformation. When we step into the 6th level, it is the second transformation. Qin Yun nodded and said, it seems that with every transformation, the divine ability will be strengthened. At this moment, Yang Shiyu also came out. She took out a walnut-sized bead and said, this is the dragon essence. So small. Xiao Yuelon felt a little disdainful. However, when she took it and felt that the bead was extremely heavy, she was extremely happy. A small bead weighed hundreds of thousands of pounds. It could be seen how strong the energy contained within was. Yang Shiyu took out a silver bathtub, enough for 2 people to soak in. This bottle contained some dragon blood. She poured the golden dragon blood into the silver bathtub. After you finish absorbing the dragon blood's energy, you can go into the cauldron and get it yourself. When Yang Shiyu saw Qin Yun and Xiao Yuelon entered the bathtub. She quietly left the secret room. Qin Yun and Xiao Yuelon used the dragon essence and soaked in dragon blood. After 10 days of cultivation, they managed to refine the heart of the great Tao. However, the dragon essence was not completely consumed. The energy was sealed by Qin Yun and stored away. At the 7th level of the martial Tao, the blood in my body has become even stronger. This should be Tao blood. Qin Yun closed his eyes and could feel the shadow of life marks in his blood. Qin Yun originally had the bloodline of a heavenly lion. Heavenly lions also liked dragon blood very much, so after absorbing it, they could rapidly strengthen themselves. Xiao Yuelon had the bloodline of a dragon, so she could also become stronger by absorbing dragon blood. I never thought that you, a heavenly lion bloodline martial artist, and I, a dragon blood martial artist, would actually become husband and wife. Xiao Yuelon kissed Qin Yun's lips and said with a charming smile. Qin Yun and Xiao Yuelon cultivated together. Their cultivation speed was indeed very fast. They both had 3 Dao cores, and their cultivation speed was as fast as Xie Wufeng and company, who only had 1 Dao core. After they broke through, Yang Shiryu also walked in. Congratulations on stepping into the 7th level of the martial Dao. Yang Shiryu's face was filled with a gratified smile. She had watched Qin Yun and Xiao Yuelon grow up. Especially Qin Yun. He was her student back then. After she closed the stone door, she waved her hand and released an air barrier that enveloped the 3 of them. It isolated the sound from the outside world and made it very secretive. Xiao Yuelon and Qin Yun were puzzled when they saw Xiao Yuelon's serious expression. Little Yun, tell me the truth. What else did you get from the moon? Yang Shiryu asked. This matter is very important. It's best not to hide it. I obtained the sun's soul. As Qin Yun spoke, he took out the large fiery red pearl. This is it. After Yang Shiryu fused with the Nethermoon martial spirit, she seemed to have recovered a lot of her memories from her previous life. That was why she asked Qin Yun. Xiao Yuelon seemed to know the importance of the sun's soul, as she looked at Qin Yun in astonishment. Sure enough, Yang Shiryu frowned and said, Little Yun, the place where the sun's soul lands corresponds to that place. If you bring the sun soul of the moon here, it will cause a change in the 3 desolate lands. What change? Is it a disaster? Qin Yun asked hurriedly. No. If this egg breaks out of its shell, the 9 suns in the sky, in order to protect the sun soul that breaks out of the shell, will definitely release a power that will prevent the experts of the 3 desolate land from staying here. Yang Shiryu sighed and said, This is also the effort of the 9 suns to protect the sun soul. As for the spirit desolate and the other great desolate lands, with the power of the 9 suns, it is impossible to make any changes. However, it can suppress the 3 desolate lands. Xiao Yuelon said with a smile. In that case, this is a good thing. It can be considered a good thing. However, this also means that all the experts in the 3 desolate lands might have to leave and head to the spirit desolate and devil desolate lands. As for what cultivation level the martial artists will be chased away, I'm not sure. Yang Shiryu said. Qin Yun was somewhat excited. If that was the case, he would not be afraid of the threat of a martial king in the future. Then how can I hatch this egg? Qin Yun said excitedly. Yang Shiryu said, If I'm not wrong, the aura released by this egg should be divine fire. This is the unique aura of the 9th heaven sparrow. To hatch the 9th heaven sparrow, you need the 9th heaven sparrow totem. I have it. Qin Yun hurriedly took out the 9th heaven sparrow totem and picked up the mental resonance Xian pen. He took a deep breath and calmed himself down. Then, he carved a totem on the surface of the egg. The mental resonance Xian pen has the Beast King inscription spirit inside it. Carving a beast-type totem is very easy. Very quickly, Qin Yun finished. Cracks also started to appear on the bead. Is it coming out? Qin Yun rubbed his hands as he stared intently at the cracked egg. Xiao Yuelon and Yang Shiryu also stared at the egg that was emitting fire and became nervous. Crack! The egg completely shattered and a purple gold duckling flew out and bit Qin Yun's hand. This is the 9th heaven sparrow? You must be kidding me. Qin Yin shouted. His hand was bitten to the point of bleeding. The moment he was bitten to the point of bleeding, he also felt that he had a strange and mysterious connection with this duckling. It just broke out of its shell. It's like this. Yang Shuri was somewhat excited. She went to touch the purple-gold duckling and said with a smile, "Little thing, you will follow him from now on. Little darling, let big sister hug you." Xiao Yuelon looked at the cute duckling and was very happy. She carefully held it in her palm. The duckling flapped its two small wings and chirped. It was very lovable. "Xiao Yun, that dragon of yours should be enough for this little guy to eat for a year or two." Yang Shuri said. "A year or two? That dragon is so big. It's only enough for this little thing to eat for a year or two," Qin Yin exclaimed. Yang Shuri said with a smile, "This kind of divine beast can only be raised in a place like the immortal desolate. This is not strange at all." Qin Yin was secretly glad that the little jade rabbit had been sleeping all this time. Otherwise, it would have been another gluttonous ghost. However, no matter what, it was still a young divine beast. It still had some ability, so he could only temporarily raise it. June 7th, a month quickly passed. In 3 days, the first batch of people from the Nine Suns sects would arrive at the entrance of the martial city. There were many people who came to watch the show. In the open space outside the city gate, there were many tents of all sizes. In 3 days, the mysterious and powerful disciples of the Nine Suns sect would enter the city to capture Qin Yin. This was an unprecedented grand occasion. Everyone wanted to witness how Qin Yin fell. After a month of cultivation, Xia Wufeng and company had successfully stepped into the 7th level of the martial Dao, and in the 3 desolate lands, something terrifying had happened. Chapter 480. Big Mouth Magic Wolf outside the ancient city of martial arts. There were many martial kings and Xian realm martial artists. When they realized that they could not sense the Nine Suns' spiritual energy, they fell into a state of panic. "I'm at the spirit martial realm. Although I can still sense spiritual energy, I can't absorb much spiritual energy in my body," someone said. "I just stepped into the spirit martial realm, so there's no problem. Everything is normal." An old woman said, "There's no problem with the 9th level of the martial Dao." A middle-aged man said with a smile, "Could it be that the higher one's cultivation, the less they can sense the Nine Suns' spiritual energy?" In 3 days, the Nine Suns sect would arrive. So many people came here. But now, something like this had happened. Han Fenghu tried for an hour, but he was still unable to sense the Nine Suns' spiritual energy. This caused him to sweat profusely in fear. "Grandma Ling, what do you think?" He calmed himself down and asked. The other martial kings of the bloodline aristocrat clans also looked at Grandma Ling because she was the only one who was very calm. Granny Ling said slowly, "To protect something from harm, the Nine Suns controlled the spirit chi so that it would not be absorbed by the powerful martial artists of Arid Triad. The Nine Suns are currently very weak, and their control can only be used against the 3 desolate lands. That's why everyone can cultivate normally in the magical desolate and spirit desolate lands." Hearing Granny Ling's words, the crowd burst into an uproar. This meant that they, the Xian realm and martial kings, had to move to the spirit desolate or magical desolate. If he wanted to enter the spirit desolate land faster, he would have to pass through the spirit desolate passage. However, one had to possess great strength to do so. Even a martial king would not be able to pass the test so easily. Many years ago, a spatial crack appeared between the magical desolate and the beast desolate, causing the beast desolate to be occupied by the magical desolate, becoming the magical beast desolate. And the magical desolate and the spirit desolate are equally strong desolate lands, so they are also interlinked. This meant that there was a path that allowed anyone to go to the spirit desolate. It was the path from magical beast desolate to magical desolate to spirit desolate. Even though the journey was long and fraught with danger, it wouldn't be a problem if one possessed sufficient strength. When they heard that they were going to the spirit desolate, many of the Xian realm and martial kings were alarmed. Isn't it just being unable to absorb spiritual energy? We can absorb it through the formation. A martial king said, "There's no need for it to be spirit desolate." Grandma Ling said with a smile, "The ancient city of martial arts restricts martial artists above the martial Tao realm from entering. If you go in, you'll be repelled by the inside. Right now, the nine suns are only preventing us from absorbing spiritual aura. If they sense that there are still a lot of powerful warriors in Air Triad, that repelling force will appear. This meant that they would be killed." Everyone's hearts trembled again. Of course, they wanted to go to the spirit desolate, but thinking about how, with their current strength, it would be extremely dangerous to pass through two great wastelands. Han Fenghu's eyes lit up as he said with a smile, "Everyone doesn't want to go to the spirit desolate land right now. You must be worried that you won't be able to successfully defend against the spirit desolate land, right? Our divine inscription palace can provide protection so that everyone can safely arrive at the spirit desolate land. However, we need a certain amount of purple coins. You can discuss the details with our divine inscription palace." Everyone cursed in their hearts because they were going to be slaughtered by the divine inscription palace again. However, they had no choice but to accept the slaughter. Xiao Yuanmei was near the city gate earlier, so she heard the conversation outside. She promptly ran back and informed Qin Yun and others about this matter. Qin Yun and company were all in the spacious hall. Only Xiao Yuelan, Yang Shuriyue, and Qin Yun knew why such a thing happened. Xiao Xianqin said, "This is a chance to go to the spirit desolate. I think we can take this opportunity to head to the spirit desolate land together." Because Xiao Xianqin's talent was not bad and she had the dragon bloodline inheritance, Kai Xiangjing guaranteed that the Nethermoon Palace would definitely accept her as a disciple. Kai Xiangjing said, "The people from our Nethermoon Palace are all very strong. They will definitely be able to safely lead everyone to the spirit desolate land. I won't go for now." Qin Yun let out a long sigh. He had to safely wait for the ninth Heaven Xian sparrow to grow up. He definitely could not go to the spirit desolate land. Otherwise, he would have let down the protection that the nine suns had brought him. Xiao Yuelan also wanted to accompany Qin Yun here. However, if she stayed, Xiao Yuanmei would definitely not leave. Perhaps even Morong Darren and company would not leave, and it would be extremely difficult to go back in the future. When a matter of the martial city is over, I will follow Grandma Ling and the others back to the Nethermoon Palace in the spirit desolate land. Xiao Yuelan said, "Ah, elder sister, aren't you going to stay with him?" Xiao Yuanmei was reluctant to part with Qin Yun, but she also wanted to go to the spirit desolate land to take a look. Xiao Yun is not a child. Why would he accompany him? Xiao Yuelan smiled and said, "Besides, he is here. He still has things to do." Xie Wufeng said, "I will also follow the elders of my sect to the spirit desolate land. If those Xian realm and martial kings leave, Brother Yin won't have any opponents here. There's no need to worry." Safely heading to the spirit desolate land was something that many people in the martial desolate land yearned for. And now, they had the chance to do so. Qin Yun definitely had his reasons for choosing to stay here. Everyone had also agreed that after the matter of the martial city was over, they would head to the spirit desolate land. 3 days had passed. Outside the city gate, a luxurious carriage that was more than 10 meters long and wide appeared. These large carriages were dazzling in gold and jade, emitting a steaming aura. The ones pulling the carriages were all large spirit beasts. A few of the Nine Suns sects had arrived. They were extremely ostentatious, especially the spirit beasts that were pulling the carriages. From each carriage, more than 10 people walked out. There were old men, middle-aged men, young men, and young men. Their clothes all had their own unique characteristics. Different Nine Suns sects had different patterns on their luxurious robes. When they arrived, they did not converse with the people here. They were filled with disdain towards the martial kings here and did not even look at them. They were all looking at the city gate of the martial city. Is it the totem pavilion that placed a bounty of 10 billion purple coins on Qin Yun's head? A red-clothed old man asked coldly. An old man from Totem Pavilion hurriedly walked over and said humbly, "That's right, it's us. As long as you behead Qin Yun and hand him over to us, you will be able to obtain 10 billion purple coins." All right. An old man nodded. 5 of the 9 Sun sects had come, and 4 of them had yet to come. It was unknown why. These 5 9 Sun sects had sent out 5 youths, all of whom were at the 9th level of the martial Tao. He was only 15 or 16 years old, but he was already at the 9th level of the martial Tao. This caused the 20 to 30,000 people outside the city gate to be extremely shocked. Some people were unable to reach this level of cultivation even when they were in their 70s or 80s. As for the youths of the 9 Sun sects, they actually had such profound strength. The 5 of you will draw lots and decide the order in which you will enter the martial city. The old man, who seemed to be of a higher seniority, took out a box and allowed the 5 handsome youths to draw lots. After drawing lots, the first person to enter the ancient city of martial arts was a young man with slightly dark skin and a tall and sturdy build. He wore a black robe, revealing 2 arms that were full of muscles. The youth was also quite handsome. The black axe in his hand overflowed with a strong force. It was a Tao artifact level axe. The black-clothed youth released a 5-meter-long armored black wolf and rode it towards the city gate. When everyone saw the black wolf, their hearts skipped a beat. The black wolf had a very strange and frightening mouth. It could suddenly open wide enough to swallow a giant cow. Big-mouthed demon wolf. This is a class 9 spirit beast. Qin Yun is out of luck this time. The disciples of the 9 Sun sects are indeed different. At such a young age, he is already at the 9th level of the martial Tao, wielding a Tao artifact and riding a class 9 spirit beast. No wonder the 9 Suns sects look down on us. It's because they are indeed very strong. I heard that they've been trapped in their desolate domain for many years. Now that they can finally come out, they will definitely vent their anger. We have to be careful in the future. After the black-clothed youth entered the city gate, he said proudly to the other youths from the 9 Suns sect outside, "I can end the battle by myself. You won't have a chance to make a move." With that, he jumped off the back of the big-mouthed demon wolf and patted its butt. He said, "Alang, go find the people inside and eat them all. Just leave the head and bring it back." The demon wolf howled and suddenly entered a state of battle. Its entire body tensed up as it looked around with a deep roar. The black-clothed youth carried his giant axe and said with a frown, "Is there someone nearby? You actually came out to die." He shouted, "That thing called Qin Yun. Hurry up and come out to die. Don't hide." The big-mouthed demon wolf ran more than 10 meters and looked around. It constantly opened its mouth and howled. Its mouth was actually 2 to 3 meters wide. Qin Yun had arrived a long time ago and had Xie Wufeng and company hide well. At this moment, he took out the Xian Royal Cannon and loaded a cannonball. His cannonballs were forged by everyone in the past 3 days. When refining the cannonballs, he used a large amount of beast oil and a 9th level martial Tao core. There was no problem at all in blasting away a 9th level martial Tao cultivator. Big-mouthed demon wolf. This kind of idiot, his mouth is so big. It's obvious that he wants me to shoot him. Qin Yun found it very funny. He aimed at the big-mouthed demon wolf and opened his mouth at it. Just now, Xiao Yueme had sent him a sound transmission, clamoring for this shot. Of course, Qin Yun wanted to do such a satisfying thing himself. Therefore, he decisively rejected Xiao Yueme. "Qin Yun, you turtle, hurry up and come out." The black-clothed youth roared, "Come out obediently and cut off your head. This will save you from torture." "You open your mouth, good. Big-mouthed demon wolf, eat my cannon." With a thought, Qin Yun shot out the cannonball. The cannonball emitted flames and dragged along light patterns as it flew like a meteor. In an instant, it passed through the demon wolf's mouth and entered its body. Boom! After a loud explosion, the big-mouthed demon wolf's body was smashed into pieces. Minced meat rained down like rain, drenching the black-clothed youth's entire body. Just now, Everyone had flown into the air and looked into the city through the barrier. When they saw the powerful demon wolf instantly turn into minced meat, they were all stunned. The demon wolf that was so majestic just a moment ago had died in an instant. Furthermore, it had died so thoroughly. Tung Rue, pay attention. A black-clothed old man in the air shouted to the black-clothed youth below. The people from a Nine Sun sect were all extremely surprised. They suddenly realized that this person called Qinyan was not that easy to deal with. Chapter 481. Gain the upper hand. Tung Rue was drenched in demon wolf meat. He was so angry that his entire body was trembling. He clenched his fists and roared, "Qinyan, come out. I will tear you to shreds, you bastard." The furious Tung Rue's body overflowed with waves of aura as he pushed the power in his body to the limit. This guy has the bloodline inheritance of a demon wolf and a wolf totem. Mo said in a low voice. He shouldn't be easy to deal with. Those Nine Suns sects were all very ancient sections. They controlled many totems and inherited bloodlines. Disciples with good aptitude or the descendants of sect elders and sect masters could obtain the inheritance of totems and bloodlines. Such an ancient sect would definitely have soul refiners as well as outstanding disciples that they had nurtured. Totems, martial spirits, and bloodlines were all in perfect harmony. Their strength was stronger than other martial Tao realm cultivators. You enter my territory to shout and kill, yet you are still so arrogant. You are destined to not live for long. Qin Yun aimed the Xian Royal Cannon at Tung Rue and fired a cannonball. This time, Tung Rue was also prepared. When he saw a beam of light shooting towards him, he hurriedly dodged. However, the cannonball knew how to turn and chase after the dodging Tung Rue. Tung Rue was also caught off guard. However, his reaction was extremely fast. Just as he was about to dodge the cannonball, he discovered that the cannonball had exploded more than 10 meters away from him. After the cannonball exploded, the sound was very small. It only set off a wave of air. This wave of air enveloped Tung Rue, causing him to be unable to move. When everyone saw that the cannonball had exploded and did not produce a violent explosion, they immediately thought that there was a problem with the cannonball. However, Tung Rue suddenly shouted, "Elder, save me. I've been set." Just as he finished speaking, Qin Yun fired a second cannonball. With a ball of flames, it slammed into Tung Rue's body. Boom! Ferocious flames exploded along with the explosion. Countless flames flew in all directions to the west, covering the surrounding dozens of meters. The surging flames rose to a height of several hundred meters, like a mushroom. It was very shocking. Tung Rue, the black-clothed elder in the air, was stunned for a moment before he roared hoarsely. The flames disappeared, leaving only an axe on the ground. Tung Rue had already disappeared. With a glance, it was obvious that he had been burned to ashes. The group of people from a Nine Sun sect had been full of arrogance before, but now they all looked at the axe below in shock. Although Tung Rue was a youth, he had a Tao artifact and was at the 9th level of the martial Tao. He had a bloodline and a totem, but now he had died so cleanly. "I am Qin Yun, the city lord of the martial city. Without my permission, you are not allowed to enter the ancient city. If you trespass, you will be killed without mercy." Qin Yun's powerful voice reverberated in the sky. Totem Pavilion and the bloodline aristocrat clans felt much more at ease because even the powerful disciples of the Nine Suns sect had suffered a great loss. A few elders from a Nine Suns sect suddenly attacked the barrier crazily. Bang, bang, bang. Their auras also caused Qin Yun to be alarmed. That was the same cultivation level as Wu Mingxiu. It should be a power that surpassed the martial king realm. However, even if many experts of this level joined forces, they would still be unable to break the barrier of the martial city. Xiao Yuanmei sent voice transmission to Qin Yun. "Brother, you scared them badly. If they don't send people in, won't we not need to fight? Isn't that a good thing?" Qin Yun replied with a smile. Not good, it's too boring. You have to refine a Xian royal cannon for me in the future. It's really too useful. Xiao Yuanmei was extremely envious. Qin Yun was becoming more and more proficient with the Xian royal cannon. Furthermore, he had refined a body-securing cannonball that could freeze one's body. Just like before, it had caught Teng Rue off guard. Han Fenghu said, when Qin Yun wasn't even 20 years old, he completed the assessment of a high-ranked spirit inscription master. With his current cultivation, he should be able to refine a royal grade spirit artifact and belong to the royal grade spirit inscription master category. His voice was heard by many people and caused quite a stir. A royal grade spirit inscription master, and he was only around 20 years old. This was indeed a terrifying existence. Just now, Teng Rue and his demon wolf had been killed by the explosion. That kind of thing was obviously a powerful spirit artifact, refined by an inscription master. It's your turn to go in, the black-clothed old man said coldly. Retrieve Teng Rue's axe, and I will be grateful to you. Teng Rue was the first to enter. Everyone had seen what happened to him. His body was blown to smithereens. There were 5 people who had drawn lots just now, and there were still 4 left. They were all youths. All of you go in together, a red-clothed old man said. This Qin Yun is somewhat strange. Furthermore, according to the information we have, he has a martial King Dao core in his hands. As long as we take down the martial ancient city, our martial Dao realm disciples will be able to increase their cultivation even faster in the future. Qin Yun suddenly felt that the martial ancient city was not only capable of cultivating in the martial Dao realm. There must be something else hidden within. Otherwise, with the foundation of these 9 sun sects, there was no need for them to use the ancient city to improve. The 4 youths were all wearing Dao artifact level armor. This allowed them to withstand a large portion of the explosion damage. Although they had seen Teng Rue die, they did not feel the slightest bit of fear as they walked through the city gate. Just as they entered, Qin Yun shot out 2 cannonballs. The first one was used to immobilize them, and the second one was used to explode. After the 4 youths were immobilized, they were still able to move. It was obvious that it was the effect of the armor on their bodies. Although they could move, they could be enveloped by the violent flames of the explosion. A moment later, the 4 youths charged in Qin Yun's direction with Dao artifacts in their hands. Qin Yun was secretly alarmed. He did not expect to be discovered by them. Xiao Yuan was hiding in a dilapidated house in the distance. She made her body transparent and rushed over. At the same time, Xia Wufeng, Yang Shiyu, Xiao Yuanmei, Xiao Xianqin, Hong Mengshu, Hong Yin, and Murong Darren all rushed out. Other than Xia Wufeng, the others were all dressed in black and wearing hoods. This was also to prevent them from being recognized. Qin Yun also appeared. With a Dao artifact, the black saber, he charged at a long-faced youth. The people watching from above never expected that Qin Yun would have so many helpers by his side. That sword cultivator should only be at the 3rd level of the martial Dao realm, right? His origin sword was also destroyed earlier. Why is he still running out now? Qin Yun is only at the 4th or 5th level of the martial Dao realm. Among the people by his side, only the black-clothed man who can summon the Nether Realm Berserk Dragon is more powerful. If he had a powerful helper by his side, he would have come out long ago. Right now, he must have been forced into a corner. Xia Wufeng's speed was the fastest. After charging at a short-haired youth, the origin sword in his hand slashed out with a schwa sound. A wave of threatening sword energy swept out with a cold, killing intent. It was extremely terrifying. A few consecutive strikes were able to stab the short-haired youth. However, he had a Dao artifact level armor on his body to protect him. Those few strikes were only able to push him back. Seeing Xia Wufeng's sharp sword move, everyone was amazed. Right now, Xia Wufeng was facing a 9th level martial Dao cultivator from the 9 Sun sect. However, he had the upper hand in an instant. This meant that his cultivation had greatly increased. These fellows are not easy to deal with. Xiao Yuan sent a voice transmission to Qin Yun. The Tao artifact armor on their bodies is too strong. It's difficult to break through, not to mention being impervious to swords and spears. All kinds of energy are unable to penetrate it. Even the penetration divine art is useless. Qin Yun executed the six-style Wind Slayer and slashed at his opponent crazily. However, his opponent remained calm and composed. He was not afraid of the saber slashing at him. He did not even dodge and allowed Qin Yun to slash at him. If one was not afraid of other people's attacks during battle, then there was no need to worry too much. They could just attack the opponent with all their might. Xiao Wufeng, Murong Darren, and Hong Yan were in a group. Hong Mengshu and Yang Shi were in a group. Xiao Yuelon, Xiao Yueme, and Xiao Xinqin were in a group. Qin Yun attacked a person by himself. Kai Xiangjing did not appear because she would easily be recognized as a disciple of the Nethermoon Palace. Yuelon, Yueme, come over and help me restrain this guy. Qin Yun suddenly transmitted his voice. Xiao Xinqin could handle it by herself, so Xiao Yuelon and Xiao Yueme went over to help Qin Yun. Everyone looked at the many people fighting below and could not help but admire the power of the Nine Suns sect, especially those extremely powerful Tao artifact armor. Even if they were attacked by many people, they were still unscathed. Qin Yun, stop struggling. Your head is mine. The long-faced youth suddenly took a deep breath and said with a sinister smile, I never thought that your helper would actually be a woman. Ha! That's great. After I kill you, I can also find them to satisfy my craving. When Xiao Yuelon and Xiao Yueme heard this, they were infuriated in their hearts. As for Qin Yun, he roared and threw out a few punches. However, when these punches landed on the youth's body, they were unable to cause him any harm. Xiao Yueme and Xiao Yuelon hurriedly used their strongest primordial Tao energy to form a fiery red rope and tied up the long-faced youth. Qin Yun hurriedly took out the heavenly lion-dragon suppression cauldron and fiercely covered the long-faced youth. After the dragon inside, the heavenly lion-dragon suppression cauldron was killed by Yang Shiryu. It was also transferred by Qin Yun to the Nine Yang Divine Spirit storage space. Now, he could also see people being suppressed inside. Brother Yun, Xiao Wufeng shouted at Qin Yun. They had also joined hands to control a youth. Qin Yun hurriedly flew over and took the heavenly lion-dragon suppression cauldron away. Following that, Yang Shiryu's side also went very smoothly. The youth was kept inside the heavenly lion-dragon suppression cauldron. In the end, the youth wanted to run, but he was surrounded by Qin Yun and company. He was unable to escape the fate of entering the heavenly lion-dragon suppression cauldron. The people from the Nine Suns sect were all dumbfounded. They were extremely confident in their Tao armor. During the battle just now, they had indeed played a great role. They had resisted Qin Yun and company's powerful attacks without suffering any damage. But now, even they had been sucked into the cauldron. Qin Yun was unable to injure them, but he could trap them in the heavenly lion-dragon suppression cauldron. The people from the Nine Suns sect in the sky began to roar in anger. Just because I can't kill them now doesn't mean I can't kill them in the future. Qin Yun laughed loudly and said, let's see how long they can stay inside. A few elders from the Nine Suns sect hurriedly flew towards Grandma Ling. They seemed to know her. Chapter 482. The secrets of the ancient city. They just wanted to take my life. What's there to negotiate about? Qin Yun said with a cold snort. Qin Yun, those juniors are the grandsons of our sect's elders. Furthermore, their aptitude is outstanding and the sect has used a lot of resources to nurture them. As long as you let them go, we can agree to some of your conditions. A red-clothed old man said. At this point, they could only suppress the anger in their hearts and negotiate with Qin Yun. Otherwise, the four youths would die. Everyone could tell that Qin Yun was determined to kill them. If they did not come to an agreement quickly, the four youths would definitely die. Qin Yun secretly exchanged opinions with Xiao Wufeng and company. They felt that as long as the benefits were great enough, there was a chance to negotiate. All right, I'm willing to talk to you, Qin Yun said after some thought. We can talk in private. It's not convenient here, the red-clothed old man said. When everyone saw that the people from a nine-sun sect had actually submitted, they all sighed. Let's talk here. I won't waste any more time with you. I'll say one condition first, and that is that you must tell me what exactly is in the martial city that you have your eyes on. Qin Yun asked. The fact that the nine-sun sect could allow 15 or 16-year-old people to step into the ninth level of the martial Dao meant that they did not need the help of the martial city to raise their cultivation. Therefore, there must be something hidden in this ancient city. The expressions of the elders from the Nine Suns sect changed as they frowned. They did not immediately tell Qin Yun. This matter is of great importance to us. We have no comment. An old man said. Xiao Wufeng asked coldly. Is there really no comment? We can agree to any other condition, but we will definitely not agree to this condition. The red-clothed old man said coldly. Don't even think about knowing about this. Everyone was secretly alarmed as they discussed in low voices. They did not expect that there would be such a precious item hidden within this ancient city. Qin Yun placed a rope into the cauldron and tied up a youth. He said in a deep voice, Since you sent someone in to take my head for the purple coins, then I don't need to be polite with you anymore. Uncle, save me. The red-clothed, long-faced youth shouted in fear. Wait. The red-clothed old man hurriedly shouted. Then quickly tell us the secret of this ancient city. Qin Yun said coldly. If you have other conditions, as long as we can do it, we will definitely satisfy you. The red-clothed elder shouted angrily. Qin Yun, don't push your luck. We, the Nine Sun sects, are the strongest powers in the Nine Wastelands. We are willing to negotiate with you because we are giving you enough face. Qin Yun, don't refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. Hurry up and say the other conditions, then let him go. Another old man said coldly, You've already killed a person. If you continue to kill, you'll provoke another Nine Sun sect. That won't do you any good. Qin Yun, we only want to control the ancient city of martial arts. Taking your head is just a matter of convenience. We don't really want to kill you. Qin Yun was infuriated. Taking his head was just a convenience? This was clearly looking down on his life and not taking him seriously at all. Our Nine Sun sect is very strong. If you are afraid, then quickly release him. We promise you that we will give you a few 100 million purple coins. How about it? When the red-clothed elder saw that Qin Yun did not speak, he thought that Qin Yun was considering. Qin Yun took a few deep breaths and used a special chain to grab the other 3 people from the dragon suppression cauldron. When the elders of the Nine Suns sect saw Qin Yun release the youths, they immediately revealed pleased smiles. A wise man submits to circumstances. That's right. The red-clothed old man laughed and said, Qin Yun, your level is not bad. If you want to completely resolve the conflict with us, you can come to our sect and be a servant. Just as he finished speaking, he saw Qin Yun press his hand on the abdomen of a youth. The youth immediately screamed. The expression of the smiling, red-clothed elder suddenly changed as he roared, Stop! Qin Yun extracted his martial spirit. It was a rare purple-gold sound wave martial spirit. Following that, he quickly extracted the martial spirits of the other 3 youths. They were all purple-gold level saber, sword, and bow martial spirits. The 4 youths cried out in pain as they lay on the ground. I just said, I'm not going to waste words with you. If you don't agree to my conditions, then what's the point of talking? Qin Yun said with a sneer. You want to send me away with a few 100 million purple coins? You guys are looking down on me too much. Also, I, Qin Yun, have never been afraid of your Nine Suns sect. Grandma Ling let out a long sigh. Old friends, if you promise Qin Yun that you will tell him the secret of the ancient city, it might not be too late. Right now, only the martial spirit has been taken away, and it can still be put back. After the elders of the Nine Suns sect discussed for a while, Elder Hong Ying said, Qin Yun, we can tell you the secret of the martial ancient city, but you have to agree to 3 of our conditions. First, you have to give each of us a bowl of heavenly lion blood. Second, Qin Yin suddenly laughed out loud. His laughter interrupted the red-clothed elder. You guys are too naive. You actually want me to agree to your conditions. If you guys are so insincere, then there's nothing to talk about. Boss, yeah. I just said that those who trespass into the ancient city of martial arts will be killed without mercy. However, these guys are a bit difficult to kill. Qin Yin said, if they don't move, I can still kill them. Xia Wufeng said indifferently, wait, as long as you agree to one of our conditions, give each of us a bowl of heavenly lion blood. In 10 years, we will definitely tell you the secret of the ancient city. The red-clothed old man became anxious and hurriedly shouted. When Xia Wufeng heard that, he hurriedly summoned his origin sword and stabbed at the few people lying on the ground. They were all stabbed to death. It had to be said that his origin sword was becoming more and more terrifying. It could penetrate the energy barrier released by a Dao artifact. Qin Yin stripped off the Dao armor and threw his body into the dragon suppression cauldron. The seniors of the Nine Suns sect immediately roared in anger as they crazily attacked the barrier. You sent people into the city to take my head. Now that these people have been killed by me, do you still feel wronged? Qin Yin said with a sneer, you brought this upon yourselves. Everyone also felt that there was something wrong with the people of the Nine Suns sect. They clearly had the chance to save those people, but they refused to agree to Qin Yin's conditions. Instead, they asked Qin Yin to give them the heavenly lion blood. There was no way to continue this negotiation. The Nine Suns sect did not understand that they were the ones asking for help. Perhaps it was also because these Nine Suns sect had never lowered their heads to others before, so they never knew how to negotiate in such a situation. Just now, they only wanted to use a few 100 million purple coins to send Qin Yin away. Furthermore, they were overbearing and wanted Qin Yin to agree to their 3 conditions. Although Qin Yin did not know what the secret of the martial city was, he was certain that there was something very important hidden inside. Otherwise, those Nine Suns sects would not have been unwilling to tell him. Obviously, they were worried that Qin Yin would obtain the things hidden in the ancient city. Just as the people from the Nine Suns sect were going berserk, the sun in the sky suddenly turned red, causing the sunlight to suddenly turn red. Noon had just passed, and a red light like the setting sun appeared. Furthermore, it was only the color of the sun. Granny Ling frowned and said, this is a warning from the Nine Suns. If the Nine Suns turn red, the 3 desolate lands will begin to have a repulsive force. At that time, warriors above the spirit martial realm will die from the pressure of the repulsive force. When they saw the red sun, the people from the Nine Suns sect were not angry. Instead, they were incomparably terrified. They, the Nine Suns sect, were even more aware of how terrifying this was. We have to hurry to the spirit desolate land. If the Nine Suns turn red, we will all be burned to ashes. An old man from the Nine Suns sect hurriedly landed on the ground and entered the carriage. Even the people from the Nine Suns sect were frightened. One could imagine how terrifying this was. Many people also began to panic as they hurriedly left the martial city. Qin Yin, don't think that you can be carefree in the ancient city just because we experts have left. We will send martial Dao realm cultivators in to kill you. You will hide in the martial city for the rest of your life. There are many powerful elders of the martial Dao realm in our Nine Suns sect. They will come to take care of you. A few elders from the Nine Suns sect left in a hurry after leaving behind their ruthless words. Not long after, the outside of the martial city became extremely quiet and deserted. The onlookers hurriedly returned to their sects, preparing to head to the spirit desolate land. Only the people from the Nethermoon Palace and the Moon Profound Valley did not leave, because Yangshi Yu was still inside. After the people from the other powers had left, Xiao Yuelon and Xiao Yueme used their penetration divine ability and brought Xia Wufeng, Hong Mengshu and company out of the ancient city's barrier. Yangshi Yu did not leave. She said that she still had other matters to take care of here. When Xiao Yuelon left, she only gave him a few reminders. Furthermore, She told him to find the secret of the ancient city and tell her about it in the future. Xiao Wufeng followed Grandma Ling and the others. As a sword cultivator, he was welcome wherever he went. After watching the carriages go far away, Yang Shiyu took off her hood. There was a trace of melancholy on her jade-like face. I wonder when I'll be able to see them. Big Sister Yang, you told Yuan to stay, but why didn't she stay? Qin Yin was also reluctant to part with Xiao Yuan. She didn't want to leave either, but when she found out that I wanted to stay with you, she left in peace. Yang Shiyu smiled. Yuan definitely has her own plans for going to the Spirit Desolate. Yuan, and Yuan all seem to have your own little secrets. Qin Yin scratched his head and smiled. Big Sister Yang, let's go find the secret of the ancient city now. All right. Yang Shiyu hurriedly nodded. Just as they were about to turn around and leave, they suddenly sensed a few powerful auras. 3 middle-aged men clad in armor rushed in from outside the city. When the 3 men saw Yang Shiryu's beautiful face, they revealed evil smiles. The weapon in his hand and the black armor he wore were all Dao artifacts. However, they were not familiar with the usage of Dao artifacts. It was obvious that their elders had lent them to them at the last moment. In the air, 3 large carriages appeared. From the looks of it, one could tell that they were from the Nine Suns sect. There were 9 sects in the Nine Suns sect, and only 5 had come just now. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.